What is going on, mi gente? Welcome everyone to another episode of Binging Dragons. My name is Ruben, aka CrossRodz, and today's episode, and I keep saying today's episode is special, but damn it, it's because it is. Uh, Here lately, I have just been getting together with the most awesome people that you can find online. Today's episode, I have someone who, let me see how I can put it. I consider one of my holy trinity within the A Song of Ice and Fire lore. Uh, and the reason why I say that is because this person is one of the people that I started watching on TikTok mainly, and just was feeding me all this awesome information of A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, and whatnot. Uh, and I can tell you guys who the other two are later on. But yes, right now, I am so excited because we are going to talk about House of the Dragon season 2 and all the things that we are expecting of it, the things that have us very, very excited, and just a lot of awesome hot D season 2 talk. Without any further ado, I want to say welcome, 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 welcome to the awesome Kellie, Game of Thrones historian, if you follow her on TikTok.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now I can hear
There we
you.
go. I think we had a little glitch, but we're good.
Yes. Nah,
Hi.
yeah, we're good. How is it going? How's it going? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing great, actually. Thanks for asking. And by the way, I said her, but I meant to ask you. I needed to ask you something else before we started. How do you go by?
Yeah,
Her-
she, her.
she, her is
Spot
good.
on.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. I don't want to mess that up.
No worries.
But I am so excited to have you here. As I told you before we started, I am so ready to talk about, and in this case, House of the Dragon season 2. Uh,
Yes.
the talk of the moment, the most the thing that has us most excited for now
Yeah,
that we're in June.
absolutely.
But
Everyone is
be
very hyped.
uh, too hyped, I would say.
A little too. Yes, we can get
Yes,
into
yes,
that.
and
Yes, but I'm
yep,
excited.
exactly,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the fun part of it, not the
exactly,
crazy
exactly.
stuff.
Yep, most definitely. Now, before we get started with this, I want to have you tell us, everyone. I know where to find you, but I want people that don't,
Mhm.
for some reason, know you, where they can find you and your awesome A Song
Yeah.
of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, Game of
Yeah.
Thrones universe content.
Absolutely. So I'm on TikTok as Game of Thrones historian, all one word. You'll probably find me pretty easy. I've got a lot of videos on there. And we talk about House of the Dragon, we talk about Game of Thrones, and we talk about the entire A Song of Ice and Fire universe, like all kinds of stuff. Nothing's off the table. So at the moment, I'm only on TikTok, but I'm hopefully expanding to YouTube in the very near future if I get round to it. I've been saying I'm going to do this for months, but mainly I'm on TikTok and I'm posting there pretty much every single day. So that's the best place to find me.
Most definitely. People, let me just tell you, if if you are in need of a Song of Ice and Fire, either from the most basic lore that you might be wanting to the most complex, even tinfoil theories out there,
Oh, yes, we don't
Kellie,
shy away from that.
Kellie,
We go in.
Kellie is your girl right there. Really. I'm telling you guys, it's one of the most she makes one some of the most engaging, uh
Oh, thank you.
best A Song of Ice and Fire content out there. And I told you this in private the other day, but like when I first started following you, um of course it was mainly because of A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones and whatnot.
Hmm.
But very slowly, all of you guys, you will find out that Kellie is actually one of the most awesome and sweetest people online as well.
Oh,
So
thank
bear
you.
that in mind. I know that that'll that'll keep you all more than engaged with her content. Please follow her wherever it goes, because we don't know.
Yes, please, like join the family. Like the more the merrier. It's a I do take pride in this little bubble, this little corner of the fandom. We try and keep it fun. We try and keep it cute, which is not always the case with Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. So if you're here for a fun time, then you're more than welcome.
Yep, more than welcome. Um, by the way, that kind of takes me in a little bit. And this is a little bit random, but here lately, I'm so glad that going forward, you will probably just ditch the whole "this is my opinion" thing, because and I know this is I know the reason you say it is because of the people that are kind of weird
Mhm,
on the internet, and they can't stand that someone has a different opinion of something.
mhm. I feel like I'm
Um,
saying it every day with every
I
video, like disclaimer. I feel
It's
like
so obvious for I know
Mhm.
you and me, we're more than clear, and I know you have to
Yeah.
say it for those people, but at the same time, it's like, man, I think we're gonna have to become a little bit more block triggered.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
disagree at all. And I feel like for a while, just in terms of content creation, part of me was always like, look, I don't want to overdo it with my own opinions. I kind of want to be fair, and I will still have my favorites, but I don't want to force my opinions on anyone. So I always try and put that little disclaimer in, but I'm trying to get out of the habit because if you're not cool with being cool with creators, then I'm not someone you should engage with. So I feel like you raise a really good point because there's being respectful and cautious, and then there's walking on eggshells. And I feel like a lot of creators in this fandom feel like they have to because there's always that small contingent who don't get what you're saying or take something the wrong way. And you've got to be very clear about where you stand, almost too clear to the point where it's like, we don't need to overdo it. So you might be getting some someone said to me the other day that they wanted to see me unleash my inner Cersei Lannister, and I was like, I don't think you do, because she might not get put that in the box. Like, if
oh
I go
man,
off, I go off. So I've got
yeah,
to be
yeah,
careful and just keep things in check. But I feel like there
yeah.
might be a few spicier videos here and there. Just, putting the world to rights.
Right, right. Man, I think that you know what's interesting about this whole thing of different opinions, because it's not really only it's more of a fandom thing, not
Hmm.
only within the Game of Thrones universe. I don't know if you're a big fan of other fandoms. Like I'm a big Marvel. I love Marvel, and like Marvel has a lot of,
Yeah.
craziness
It's
as
it's
well.
not my thing, but I'm aware of it, and like Star Wars as well. I hear a
Exactly.
lot. Like I'm not involved, but I hear about the gossip on the side. Like
Mhm.
things are going crazy in this fandom, and so
Yep,
I can
yep.
relate.
And really what's like crazy to me, because just having people that can't fathom the fact that someone has a different opinion than what you have, and within a fantasy universe,
Yeah, I
that's
feel like
always what
whispering, like
blows my mind.
I always feel like in the middle of my videos being like, it's not real, because it's all made up, it's all
Just
fictional. Like we shouldn't be getting this heated.
I know,
We
just
should
like
all take a
George
beat.
said. Like George
Hmm.
said, we're just making shit up.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
but man, I feel like some of the people I disagree, like a lot of times, because I disagree with people that I admire so much within like creation and all, or
Hmm.
content creation and whatnot. Like, for example, to get one thing out of the way, I know
Hmm.
that your Game of Thrones love is not that big, more specifically towards the end of the show.
Yes, that's
in
very
in my
fair.
case in my case, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan now. 7 and 8, I have a lot of complaints, more specifically 8, and we can talk
Hmm.
about that some other day.
Hmm.
But I don't, man, I take all opinions, even if I am not like the biggest fan of the opinion. I take
Yeah.
every opinion so, like, how
But
do I say,
it's
like, seriously to a
yeah, like
point
you
and
I think that's
respectful.
spot on. It's like you don't have to agree, but you can hear someone out and then mull it over and think, okay, maybe I don't fully agree, but you've got me thinking. And you know what I mean? That's the process that I always try and get across because there are like I can, list a whole bunch of creators who I get on so well with, but on certain issues, we're on total opposite ends of the spectrum. And it's absolutely fine because both of us are like in that space of we're willing to contemplate alternatives. We're not set in stone. Like there are some things I think are pretty certain, but
Mm,
there's always that caveat no one knows for certain. So there have been times where someone has changed my mind or I've gone down a different route. And I feel like having the approach of I'll hear alternative opinions, even things that are crazy and kind of out there. I don't rule anything out because you never know with A Song of Ice and Fire. There's so many twists and turns. There's so many things we don't see coming. I feel like it's almost a disservice for us to rule out
I
anything.
know.
And I feel like you benefit as a viewer, as a reader, and as a creator of content on this media by taking in all these opinions. I think the worst thing would be to just be to have tunnel vision. That's what we don't want to do because
Mm,
you'll be in for a nasty surprise because
yep.
there are twists and turns. So I feel like it's something that maybe because I'm a little older than some people in the fandom, maybe that is a part of it. Like I'm old, so maybe I'm just a little calmer. Maybe I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
through a few things in life. I
yeah.
don't take it I take it seriously, but not seriously in the same breath because
Mhm,
it's all up for interpretation, and that's the beauty of it, if that makes
yep.
sense.
Oh, total sense. It makes total sense. And also something that I think about, and I kind of touched this talking to Stella Graves last week. By the way, guys, if you haven't checked that episode, go check it out. It was really,
Big
really
love
good.
for
We had
Estella.
such a good time. She's awesome.
they've
She's
been
awesome.
they've been such a great supporter and just they make fabulous content. Like
Oh my
if you're
God.
not already following Estella, what are you
Please.
doing? Go and do
What
it
are you
now,
doing?
people.
Yes, exactly. It's like
Mhm.
I told Estella, like in the intro, they're like the multiverse of A Song of Ice and Fire made a cosplayer.
Yes.
I can't believe the way, like how spot on she looks with her uh
Melisandre, Shay.
Melisandre,
I know she must
Shay,
get it all the time.
Shira
She must be like,
Seastar.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's
But
just talent.
what was that? Oh, so something that I touched with her on the last episode was that this George's story, and even more so in the books, but even in Game of Thrones, you can also do it kind of has the same essence because you have all these characters that you can literally make a point for. But let's talk more as Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
But you can literally make a point, make a case for almost every character. Obviously, there's the ones that we don't. There's the Joffreys of the world. There's the Ramses of the
There's
world.
yeah, I think
Um,
those two are probably my own, maybe the mountain as well, that trinity. They're but I can make a case for Joffrey. I don't want to, I don't like
yes,
to,
yes,
but
yes,
if push comes to shove, Ramsay, uh, I don't know what happened. Like what happened
yes.
there, I don't know. But
Yep.
I fully agree that you don't have to like a character, but it's taking that step back and seeing why are they doing what they're doing. Put yourself in their shoes. You don't have to
Mm.
co-sign anything, but it gives you an insight, and then you are better informed as a reader or a viewer.
And not only that, but I feel like also that always keeps our opinions of these characters so like in a state of probably, how do you say, this state of it could change or not in terms of the opinion. And
Yes.
obviously with the more you read them, I'm sure you've read
Mhm.
them quite a few times. So you find all these things of probably characters
Yeah,
that you didn't like on your first read, you like way
all the
more now.
time. Mhm.
So with that being said, I feel like it all comes back to people taking these opinions and kind of character reviews or in-depth breakdowns of characters or situations within either Hot D when it comes out now or A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah,
They need to chill down a little bit, you know, and just
100%. I feel like people, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's almost like they take it personally. And I saw a tweet today because apparently there's always drama, but the latest thing I heard was something to do with Matt Smith and Allison, a comment he made, but it was kind of suggested that he was dissing Allison, but then in the same breath he was praising Olivia Cook, but that part got left out, and so people are piling in on the actor. And the tweet
uh,
that someone said, I don't know if I retweeted it, but I was going to. It said, Matt Smith is a real human being. The character is not real, and that just hit me like it's so obvious when you say it out loud, but
mhm.
that's the issue at the end of the day. With a lot, we saw it with Bethany Antonia, with the messages that she was receiving,
Oh my god.
and things of that nature. It's like, this is why I question certain aspects of the fandom. Really, my honest opinion is, are you an actual fan? Because yes, you can like a character, but to take it out on an actor and for things to escalate like we're seeing, you're not a real fan. I don't know if anyone's told you, but that's not
Yeah,
what any real fan would ever do.
yeah.
And that's something that I feel I just see bubbling with House of the Dragon, and it hasn't even
Yeah.
aired yet. And
I
it's just
know.
like, we haven't even got going yet, and people are going crazy. And I'm very lucky because I do keep my bubble um quite safe. Like, I don't feel bad about blocking people. I'm like, it's just not worth my time. I don't
Yeah,
need the stress, and I just want to
yeah,
keep positivity. Contrasting opinions every day, that's cool.
yeah.
But there's a respect level, and I feel like it's the elephant in the room with House of the Dragon that we're all talking about, and even like the actors, the show, they know that it's a very factionalized situation. Team green, team black. That's definitely what they're going for with the promos. But the thing I have an issue with is it's causing real people to act completely out of pocket. And it's everything needs to be dialed way back down. And I did see this with Game of Thrones here and
Mhm.
there, but my experience, and this is just from what I saw watching the show and being online at the time, it never felt like it feels now. Now feels
Yeah.
on a different level, and it feels very personal towards the actors involved and the producers. And I don't enjoy all of the writers on the show, but
Mhm,
I respect their craft, and
mhm,
I'm not going to say anything negative. I would say I would do it differently,
mhm.
but there's a professionalism that I feel certain elements of the fandom need to remember, because if you're going to be involved, like, bring something positive to the group.
Yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to add before I forgot about it is, when I'm seeing things, it's mainly on Twitter, sometimes TikTok,
Oh,
where
yeah.
people are saying crazy things. And I'm like, I saw something the other day where Harry Collett, who plays Jace,
Ace.
he commented something along the lines of, we see everything on social media. We might not be commenting, but we see it all. And everyone was like, oh my God, some of the things we've said. And it's like,
Yeah.
if you're a fan of this character and this actor, they might see your crazy out of
Mhm.
pocket tweet.
Yep.
Don't embarrass yourself. Keep it cute. It's not
Yep.
hard. Do you know what
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean? It's just like, but they probably don't indulge too much, but they're aware of people saying things here and there. They're aware of the
Right.
drama, but it's like, I'm not going to embarrass myself in front of one of these actors by going after them because I don't like their character. And it's very juvenile stuff. And again, it
It's
comes back to
funny.
me being in my early 30s. Maybe I don't have the time for that kind of action. And I
I
just
think
think, oh, it's too much.
right. I think I was just about to say, I was gonna go back a little bit to what you say of being older, because I can feel a little bit now that I'm also in my early 30s. I am so definitely like, first of all, I'm here to have a good time.
Yeah,
I wanna watch
absolutely.
this for what it is, and
Hmm.
I don't know if maybe also the fact that I was a fan of the show before the books,
Hmm.
um, kind of helped me, and I
Yeah.
like that I took this. This was my journey where I finished the show first, and now I'm reading the books. But
Hmm.
I'm here to enjoy the show for what it is. This
Bottom
media,
line, that's what we're all here for. And I feel like,
exactly.
yeah, I spoke on TikTok, I think it was like last week or the week before, talking about like the reason why I do what I do and I talk about this stuff. I do it in good faith. Like I'm not doing a video or a tweet or whatever to ignite something. I'm
Mhm.
being sincere and genuine. And I've discovered that that's not a universal thing. And that's just
Mhm.
been my experience. And there's a lot of people who are younger who are
Yeah.
brilliant in this fandom. So it's not
Yeah.
like I'm saying it's just young people. It's not at all. It's
Yeah.
just the examples I've seen. I feel like the individuals have not lived in the real world.
Yep. Yep.
And so I feel like when you are a little older, you bring that additional perspective.
Yeah.
We've got bills to pay, we've got families, friends, real lives. And this is meant to be a fun outlet. So
Exactly.
when it's
Exactly.
drama, I'm like, I'm not I'm not touching that. I'm here to have a good time. And that's
Mhm.
what we should all be doing. Otherwise, why are you here?
Yep.
Like
I
I'm not a
think
glutton for
definitely.
punishment.
I know, and definitely nowadays, and back when Game of Thrones was going on, we had like the what's his name, Jack Gleason, who plays
Yeah.
Joffrey, right? Like, I can't remember reading something about someone like assaulting him or something like that, or wanting to like got all over him,
Yeah, I heard
like
something.
insulting
Yeah, I'm
him
not
and
sure
what all
what
that.
happened. Yeah, something, and it really obviously affected him very seriously to the
I
point where
know,
he retired. And
retired.
thank God
Yeah.
he's back. He's
Hmm.
coming back now. Good for him. But to feel like you needed to step back because people conflated your character with you as an
With who you
individual,
are.
like walking down the street, like I can imagine people will be shouting things thinking, oh, there's Joffrey, and it's like,
Yep.
no, I'm Jack. And that must be very
Exactly.
difficult. I can't imagine the scrutiny that the cast are under,
Yeah.
and particularly when we're talking about serious issues like racism, like transphobia, things like that. It's because of the platform, everything is just elevated, and
Elevated. Yep.
it's getting potentially kind of, actually not even potentially, it's already gotten out of hand. You know what I
Totally.
mean? And
Totally.
it's like, if I'm going to be in this fandom and saying my 2 cents, I want people to at least say, I don't have to agree with her, but she at least is fair and reasoned, and I give a reason for why I think something.
That is
You
my
know what I
reason.
mean?
That is my
And just,
whole reason to
yeah, and
be
just
like
keep
a
it
big
cute.
fan of like
Yeah.
okay, so what I mentioned earlier about my uh what did I say? Damn it, I can't even. That's how you know, guys, that we are improvising this whole thing. I
Yeah.
said something.
Off the
Oh,
cuff.
my holy trinity of A Song of Ice and Fire lore. And this is, by the way, this is not. I'm not taking like, because I know now we know so many awesome people within the A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones content creation world. All of you, I freaking love you. You are all great.
Yeah.
The only reason I say my holy trinity is because Kelly, JJ, and at the time it was Lady Lannister, Nikki. Now she's
Overseer.
Overseer Lannister,
Yes.
which we can touch a little bit on that too, and
Hmm.
we can talk about it here in a second. But
Yeah.
the reason I say that is because you guys were like my introduction to the A Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones universe content creation
Hmm.
in TikTok. That's that's the main reason. Obviously, because you guys are awesome and like know
Yeah.
so much.
Well, to add to
But
that, I
yes,
will say, and I let's give a shout out. I love JJ as well, but Overseer Lannister, which I keep calling her Lady Lannister,
me
Nikki,
too.
but
Me too.
I revert back to it. I started my channel because I loved her videos so much, and so I feel like I need to kind of bow down to the OG because
Hmm.
I stumbled across her videos and I was like, people talk about this online. These are my
Yep.
people. And
Yep.
literally, I was like, okay, when I'm doing like at the very beginning, the first couple of videos I did, I was like, I'm gonna have to just tag her in this. I don't think she's gonna see this, but I just want to give her a shout out because I
Yep.
wouldn't have my account if I wasn't watching her videos and being like, I want to give this a go too. So that's just an interesting kind of how it all began. So shout out to Nikki.
So it's funny in my case, and I don't know JJ or anything, but I've always told her I love her content and whatnot, and she was actually one of the people that inspired me to start creating content.
Oh, she's
She's
brilliant.
one of two, and especially on the A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones content, and all of that. And yes, man, when what I was gonna say about Overseer Lannister and when she changed her name, and I know it has to do with Fallout and all of that, but
Yeah,
initially, because I need to talk to all of you weirdos out there,
it needs to be addressed.
it
Yes.
all started when she went to the House of the Dragon premiere of season one, where she had weirdos sending her messages and acting all crazy. Pretty much, if I'm gonna definitely misquote right here, but it had to do something along the lines of not being worthy and shit like that. And
Yeah.
it probably even goes further than that.
Yeah.
Um, to the point where she even stopped creating content. I don't know if you remember that
I do.
about
Yes. I
like
remember
the Song of
being
Ice
like
and Fire and all of that.
shocked. Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it was crazy, and it was a bittersweet thing because I completely understood her reasoning. I was absolutely like, you do you 100%. But
mhm,
I was infuriated on her behalf because we don't always like agree on different things. Again, we have some things that we're like,
yeah,
she is the biggest Jamie Lannister fan. I'm right behind her, but she was there first, so I'm gonna
mhm,
give her a coots. But there are other characters that she may like that I may dislike, vice versa. um that doesn't matter. Her content was a brilliant addition to the
spot on.
fandom. And so it didn't matter what she was talking about. It was just interesting to see her insight and her opinions. And for her to make the decision to stop discussing certain things, particularly, you know, House of the Dragon and everything, that is not an easy thing to do. Like when you're in the rhythm of making content, to stop, that's a big deal. And it speaks to the intensity. And it blew my mind because I was like, what right do people have to make someone feel this strongly that they're having to step back? Like, that is
Mhm,
not cool at all. And
nope.
she's kind of dipping her toe back into it here and there. And I'm like, yes. Like
Yes, I
I'm
know.
it's like, you know, it's
I
just like my
know.
kryptonite. I'm like, yes, I'm here for it.
Yes.
But at the same time, if you want to just never speak on it ever again, I don't blame you.
Yep.
Absolutely don't blame you.
I'd
Because
rather speak to her about it like separately, like a message, be
yeah,
like, "Oh, hey, what did you think about this?"
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
but well, I think this was such an awesome introduction. You guys, I promise we are going to talk about House of the Dragon here soon.
Yes. Yes.
um, but man, we are so connected in the way we think and how we approach like criticisms and opinions by other
Yeah.
awesome Song of Ice and Fire creators. And yeah, man,
Yeah.
I love this world too much. I'm like I told Estella last week. I'm
I
almost
know.
sometimes
A
I
little
have my
too much.
favorite ones. Yes, I have my favorite ones. Yes, but I also feel like George, like he's talked about it, where he looks at the characters like his babies, like his literal babies.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with a lot of these characters. Like one day I'm saying like I have this person as my favorite character while reading the chapters, but then all of a sudden
Yeah.
this one goes up ahead because it
Yeah,
just blew my
it's
mind what I just
different
read,
people
and
for
so
different
on.
reasons. It's like people lose their minds when I say anything positive about Cersei, but as a character, that is top notch
Hmm.
quality character. You don't have to like her. That's the thing
That's
that
the
everyone needs
thing.
to remember.
Yeah.
But to sit back and observe this individual in the way they're behaving, like from a psychological standpoint,
Hmm.
that is so intriguing to me. So despite how despicable she is, I find her chapters and her scenes in the show fascinating and I can't look away. And that's for me the sweet spot because you want to be engaged and you want to see what this person does next. You don't want to be
Right.
bored of someone or skipping their chapters or fast forwarding through their scenes. You want to
Mm.
take it all in. And so
Yep.
on different days, like I have my like top three characters, but they do switch around occasionally. And so it depends on your mood as well, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Too. By the way, I'm getting ready to start soon. A feast for crows, and that's where I heard that Cersei chapters start, and
Oh,
I
I'm so
am
jealous.
so
It's
damn
so good.
excited, man.
Honestly,
Uh,
you will literally be like, this chick is crazy. But it's crazy where you can't look away. Like in a sort
yes.
of Patrick Bateman kind of way. Like I need to
Yes.
see what you're gonna do. And what's so fascinating, and I love Lena Headey as Cersei on the show, but the thing I love about Cersei's chapters is for the very first time, you really see or read her internal monologue, what she's really thinking. And she's not as tough as she likes to pretend she is. And there's a lot
Mm,
to Cersei, but it's so fascinating to see, to read what she is thinking and compare it to what she's saying to another character in a scene, like the
oh
bravado that
man.
Cersei puts on. And then, really, behind it all, she's very scared, very vulnerable, but she puts all of this on as a front and it's part of her downfall. But it's fascinating to be like, she actually has doubt, but she won't let anyone see that. And that is
Right.
fascinating just
I can't
to
wait.
observe. Do you know what I mean? Oh,
Yes.
I'm so jealous because you've got a lot to dig into.
I'm so excited.
You won't be
Kelly,
able to put it
please.
down.
I want to I know I told you a little bit behind before we started, but I really want to do episodes that are centered around a Song of Ice and Fire. And please, can we get together for the next ones?
Oh, you know
because
it,
because
100%.
man,
I'll be
I
there. Yeah.
please, please. And listen, in this thing, this talk studio thing where we're doing recording the podcast, I can fit more, I think like up to 10 people. So I have ideas right now, and that I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. We can talk about it later. But
Well, I'm on
please,
board. Sign me up.
I am so excited to just deep dive into all of this because I haven't really been able to do it with the first three books. And I'm over here like, I need to talk
Yeah.
about this to the point where I
You're
created
about to
another account.
explode.
Yes, I created another account just for like mainly like a Song of Ice and Fire stuff. I
Hmm.
haven't really promoted it a whole lot, but whatever. House of the Dragon people,
Send me the
we're gonna get
details.
to
I'm
it.
happy to give you a shout out. We'll get the name out there, get people
Yes.
aware.
Well, I'm so excited to just talk about it with you, and man, it's gonna be good. I'm excited for a feast for crows. Um, House of the Dragon. Are you ready?
No. No. I'm
I am
scared.
not ready. I am not ready for a son episode. Um, by the
What a
way,
way to
people, that is
start.
the title. That is the title for the first episode. If you did not know that, A Son for a Son will premiere June 16, which, by the way, at the moment of this recording, which is June 1st, we are only 15 fucking days away.
It's literally come
Which
out
is
of
wild.
nowhere. I feel like we've been waiting for 2 years almost, and then bam, it's on our
Yes, I
doorstep.
know,
And I'm
I
like,
know.
I need to get organized. I need to know what I'm going to talk about. Like,
Yep,
it's
yep,
literally crept up on us.
yep.
But yeah, I'm
There's
excited.
uh, yes, you know what? You told me something on a comment the other day. It has to do more with the dragon pit. People don't search the dragon pit if you don't like spoilers. But those of
Yeah.
you that know, know. And you told me we will have to watch that behind a pillow.
Yeah.
Literally, the same
Which I
thing
did
will be
for,
for the first
yeah,
episode.
for several moments on Game of Thrones, like Viserion being pulled up with the chains and turned into the like ice dragon. I literally stood outside my living room looking around the door, peeking in, being like, I can't watch, I can't watch. And
Yep.
like I feel like we're gonna have at least a handful of those kind of oh my god, I can't watch moments.
Yep.
But
Yep.
also it's that kind of TV where you can't look away.
Hmm.
I will say without like I won't spoil anything for anyone,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
House of the Dragon season 2, it's gonna start with a bang, a big
Hmm.
bang, and it's gonna get people fired up from the get-go. And
Yep.
part of me worries that people will go crazy, but I think like one of the thing that we're kind of sort of skirting around the big moment that is gonna kick off the series, what that is going to be huge in the fandom, but I think my worry is it's the real message is going to get lost in the
Lost. Yes.
factionalism.
Yes.
The thing that we're going to see is going to be a shocking scene, and no one should be rooting for it. But at the
Hmm.
same time, when the way I look at it, and this is just me, George sat down and wrote this story in this way and added these different events for a reason. And we're meant to step back and go, okay, what does this mean? Like, rather than just reacting emotionally initially, which is understandable, people are going
Hmm.
to react
Yeah.
very emotionally. Um, but at the same time, it's it's the same kind of thing we saw in Game of Thrones, where there were big moments, and no one enjoys those moments, but they're important to the story, like
Hmm.
the
Yep.
Red Wedding.
Red wedding.
And that's kind of the thing I've seen comparisons with A Son for a Son.
Yeah.
That whole scenario, no one is cheering on the Red Wedding. We're all like, no, this is bad. But
Hmm.
it's an aspect in the story for a reason. And we're meant to step back and go, yeah, that was not a good thing. When you
No.
know, and I feel like that is what I hope people take away, but I have not much hope at all, really.
No.
I feel like
I've
things are gonna just
already
explode.
seen. I've already seen things that, and mainly it's always these fucking accounts that are like they either don't have a profile picture or they have this weird
Yeah.
ass profile picture. So
Or a
it makes
username with just loads of numbers. I hate that. I'm like,
I know, and
it's
they
just
post
it's
the
off-putting.
craziest
Hmm.
things ever. And I've already seen like two tweets on Twitter or X, however you guys want to call it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always
uh,
gonna be Twitter.
Twitter for me, I know, but
Yes.
I've already seen two tweets that are just like, what are you even thinking? What
Yeah.
is going through your mind for you to
Yeah.
post this? Because it has to do more with uh being a team black and being in favor of the thing that is going to happen. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, at this point, forget about team black, forget about team green. This what's about to happen,
Yeah. It's a
forget about
family.
those teams,
Yeah.
because this is so damn brutal and
Yeah.
bad, and you
There
don't
are no
cheer for
winners.
this.
Hmm.
No winners. And even
Yeah.
within the team black in this case, because again, we don't
Hmm.
want to spoil things, but even within team black, there's gonna be, and we've already kind of seen it in the trailers, there's gonna be like tensions after this decision.
Yeah. I think
So
from what we've seen, I think from both sides, both Team Green and Team Black, things are not perfect on either side. It's
mhm,
not a pretty picture. There are divisions within each team. And I think that is something I'm really interested to see play out, because from the promos, we've got hints that there's possibly an issue between Rhaena and Baela. Like there was a
really,
reference to them being raised separately and that being an issue, possibly. There's a hint to Aemond possibly snapping at his mother, kind of
Hmm.
questioning her loyalty. So both sides, and obviously Rhaenyra and Daemon is going to be a whole other thing. Like it's the big issue is House Targaryen is split into two, but then
Hmm.
the individual factions within those teams, there's a lot of dynamics going on,
Yeah.
and it's not happy families on either side, and that's going to be interesting. And I feel like the Dance of the Dragons is like an onion. It starts off with one thing and then it unravels to all
Layer.
of these
Every
layers.
layer is so different, and
Absolutely. And there are things that are happening at the same time as other things, and they are both true. And that's
mhm,
something like two things being true at once. I feel like I need that tattooed on my forehead because
yeah,
I say it
yeah,
all the time. And it's like, I lean towards I'm not any team, but I think Rhaenyra is the rightful heir. So
yeah.
officially, I'm
Me
Team
too.
Black. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if I'm being forced to stand in a line, I'm gonna join the back of Team
yeah.
Black's line
Yeah.
officially. But really, I'm Team Nobody. I'm Team Dragon. I'm Team
Hmm.
Small Folk.
Yep.
I'm Team
Yep.
not this rich family who really should have known better. And obviously,
Yep.
it makes a fun story. If everyone played Happy Families, we wouldn't have a story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, two things can be true at once. You don't have to condone everything anyone does. And this taps into the fandom where people are taking characters to heart and are very, like, people
Mhm.
take criticism of a character personally. And so you see
Yes.
these out of pocket
Yes.
things. And it's like, for example, Damon. I mean, elephant in the room. He is,
Yeah.
as in the story, reviled by some, beloved by others.
Yep.
Very
Yep.
much the case in the fandom. I think Damon is one of the most interesting characters, but I don't agree with everything he does. And that's
Yep.
the difference. We
Yep.
can call it out. And I feel like maybe it comes with life experience, maybe it comes with just getting older, but it's that concept of not everything is black and white. Two things can be true at once. And
Mhm.
I don't know if it's just because I'm older that that's my mindset. I
Yep.
wasn't
Yep.
always this way. I would be like, no, I'm this or I'm
Yeah.
that. But now I'm like, no, I'm both. And that's kind of like the
You can
growth.
you can you can view each character for what they are, and
Yeah.
if you find a quality that you feel like you can kind of, I want to use the word exploit, but we can find another word,
Yeah.
in terms of like elevating the character as to what they do or what makes them good,
Yeah. Like when you can
we have to do
relate
it.
to an aspect of their character.
Yes, yes,
And it
yes,
doesn't have
yes.
to be their whole character. Like take Aemond, for example. I'm kind of 50-50 with
Yeah,
Aemond.
me too.
Part of
Me
me
too.
kind of roots for him. Part of me wants to scold him. You know, I see two. He does things that I think are fair, and there are things that are not fair. And
Mhm.
nobody is one thing. Every single person in the story makes mistakes. Every single person does things that they're doing for the right reasons, good intentions. Sometimes it doesn't play out that way. It's all very
Yeah.
nuanced. And I feel like the question I have for the fandom at large is really why can so many people either not understand that or refuse to even try and understand that concept because they're
Right.
ruining it for themselves, in my
Yep.
opinion. Because if you like, people sometimes think of me as like completely defending everything Damon does, even though I'll have a video saying things I don't like about what Damon
Yep.
did.
Yep. Yep.
He has his good moments, he has his bad
Has the bad
moments,
moments.
but it,
Yep.
yeah, but it's like, but that's human beings, aren't we? We're not perfect. We all do things we regret, and I think that's something that will be interesting on House of the Dragon. Will different people have regrets after they've done something, and how will
Right.
that change what goes on further down the line? Or will people dig their heels in and say, no, I have no regrets, I do it again? And how will that inform things? Because I feel like the Dance of the Dragons, it's like a cautionary tale for everybody. Like maybe the little kids are kind of the only ones who don't really
Mhm.
do anything to deserve any of this. Like I'll throw
Right.
Helena in. She never did anything to anyone.
Oh, we
But
we stand Helena. I've always said it.
exactly, exactly.
Yep.
I want to wrap her up in bubble wrap and just protect her
Yep.
to the end of time.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's like everybody will make mistakes because human beings make mistakes. And I think
Yep.
sometimes there is this, people sometimes don't realize that they want to make a character perfect. And so they justify things or they rationalize things. But it's okay to call out the
Yep.
bad things. If you don't, and if you just gloss over things that don't suit what you would like to be the case, you come across as disingenuous. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that I've tried to avoid, because I got a bit of a reputation as a Damon defender. And I am a Damon defender,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not all the time. Like, I'll cuss him out if I have to.
That
Nobody
is
is above being scolded. Like,
that
nobody
is
is
the
above it.
perfect, exactly. That is the perfect approach for George's story,
Hmm.
either in the books or to some extent whatever gets done with adaptations. Um,
Hmm.
they a lot of them, yes, a lot of them do miss a lot of the. Why am I saying a lot so much? A lot of them miss out the essence of what the characters are in the books
Hmm.
a lot of times, but for the most part, I feel like they're pretty kind of close. So with that being said, George's characters are meant to be looked as if they are like real human beings that live in this world with us,
Yeah.
where they do, they commit errors,
Hmm.
but they also redeem themselves,
Yeah,
and they probably will make
absolutely.
an error right after that. Right after redeeming themselves,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
probably will make an error. But
And round we go. But that's life, isn't it?
exactly,
That's what human
exactly.
beings are like. And I think especially because of George's his historical influence, like he's taking
Yes,
inspiration from
yes.
real events from history. And also I think I don't know for a fact, but I assume it fed into his decision to frame Fire and Blood the way he did. Obviously, when we're talking about, say, you know, going back to the early modern period or the Tudor period, or the princes in the tower, the um the Wars of the Roses, historical things that we know George has an interest in. Obviously he wasn't there at the time, he's reading about
Right.
these events secondhand. And
Yep.
so I feel like that informed his thinking about characters and how they are presented. And so
Mhm.
when he is writing his characters, he fleshes them out as best he can, because you have people saying good things and people saying bad things about the same person. And
Yes.
it's probably both true to
Yep.
different degrees. And so it's getting that even keel, because he always kind of says, nobody is perfect in my world. You know, great characters are my thing. But it's not even so much great characters, it's human characters, because
Yep.
we all
Yep.
make mistakes and we all have regrets. And it's not a Disney fairy tale. That's, I
Right.
think, what people may think is going to happen. Like, oh, there'll be a happy ending. People will get their just desserts, but that's not always what happens in life. And I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
that's where George is
Nope.
coming from. Like, not to speak for the man himself, but I feel like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where he's coming from. And he wants to give a cross section of human behaviors, which is why we get such a variation of different people across
Mm-hmm.
House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and the wider A Song of Ice and
Books.
Fire
Yes.
world. And
Yes.
so I feel like that is his basis. And so when we're looking at these characters, no one is a saint, no one is a total sinner. I would say maybe Ramsay Bolton and probably the Mountain are the
Oh,
only
the
two I
mountain is
struggle
full
with.
of evil. I think the
Yeah,
mountain
like
is
I can make a
pure evil.
case for Joffrey. Like I feel like
Yeah.
if push came to shove, if I had a gun to my head and someone said, explain, like be his defense lawyer, explain why
Right.
he is
Right.
the way he is, I feel like, okay, let's look at it from, a modern perspective. He comes from a dysfunctional family. What if he's seen something between his mother and his uncle? Because we don't get a Joffrey POV. So what if he
Yes.
saw a weird conversation and was like, what's going on there? He had an
Yep.
absent father, like all of these things. And I don't think Cersei did the best job in raising him,
Mhm.
but she
Yeah.
seemed to be the only one raising him. So I can
Yep.
see both sides. He just chose to make the decisions he did and to go down a path where he became a very brutal character, very
Mhm.
ruthless. We don't make excuses for that. That's
Yeah.
absolutely not okay. But I don't think he was born that way,
Right,
if that makes
right.
sense. Whereas
Yes, a
Ramsay
total way.
Bolton, I'm like, I don't know what happened, because apparently he was awful from the get-go. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't excuse
Although,
Ramsay.
I feel like, uh, t don't you feel like maybe Joffrey a little bit was born that way? And the only reason, and that's just hit me, the
He
only
might
reason
be.
I'm
This is
thinking
the
about it
thing.
is because of Myrcella and Tommen, because 'cause they're so sweet. Like, Myrcella
Yeah,
and Tommen being so sweet kinda makes me think
yeah.
like, "Hmm, maybe Joffrey
I
was
feel
always
like
gonna be a little shit."
this is the thing. It's like, at what point do you sort of draw the line and go, okay,
Yes.
you may have had
Yep,
it rough here and there, and maybe as
yep,
the eldest, there's pressure, all of those things. It's not an excuse for you to
yep.
go on and behave how you did because your brother and sister are sat there well behaved. Like,
Yes.
what's your excuse? It's
Yep,
not okay to just whitewash Joffrey and say, oh, he was a victim. Well, he was, but also he wasn't. Two things are
exactly.
true at once. So, I don't like to defend him because I think he was just, but then at the same time, real talk, he's a
That's
kid.
really
He doesn't really know what he's doing. And he's got this mother that is not the best influence on him. Like, I
Mhm.
don't,
Yep,
even with
absolutely.
the best of intentions. I don't know
Yep,
if Cersei did always have the best of intentions, but some days she may have really tried.
yep,
But where was Robert in all of this?
yep,
It's all
yep,
very, it's the whole thing is a mess. So I can
yep.
kind of make an excuse if push came to shove, but it doesn't really account for all of these things that you've then chosen to do,
Right.
because he's of an age where he should start to know better. And that's on the character, that's on him as an individual. So,
Yep.
especially when you see Tommen and Marcella, they are no bother. They sit
I
there
know.
and they are well behaved, they don't speak back. Joffrey's just so out there, and it's like
Out
he's,
there, yep.
and it's just, it's fascinating. And it's one of those things where, how we, in the books we don't have chapters for the five kings. So, we haven't got
Uh-huh.
anything from Robb Stark, or Renly, for instance,
Right.
or Stannis. We never really know what they're thinking. And
Mhm.
so I always wonder, like, a what if we had a Joffrey POV. Like,
Oh,
not that
man.
I would probably enjoy, I think it would be quite a tricky
Yes.
POV to get through. It would be quite hard, but it would be interesting and
That'd be
revealing
really interesting.
to be like, why
Never
are
thought
you the
about
way
that
that
one.
you are? Like,
Yeah.
lift up the bonnet and look under the hood and be like,
Yep,
let's tinker away. Why are you like this? And that's
yep.
kind of how I view all of these characters. Like, what's the deal? Why are you the way that you are? Because that frames everything you do. And you can't
Right.
just go, well, this person did this one thing. Okay, that in isolation, yes, but you've got to look at the bigger picture. And I think that's something that gets lost in the discourse, because people
I
can be
think it
like,
does.
well, they did this, and that means that they are terrible. Yes. But then there's also this. Look at Jamie Lannister. Everyone thinks
Uh-huh.
he's the devil incarnate. And it's
Yep.
because, and this is the thing why I love Jamie, his character, his whole storyline, it's a lesson in don't judge a book by its cover, because he's kept this thing secret for 20 years. And he never told a soul up until he admits it to Brienne. And that, I feel like, that's the cautionary tale. You never really know the truth. And he's a living, breathing example of that, because we realize Jamie's not what we thought. He's not this big
Yep,
baddie.
yep.
He's not perfect. Pushed a kid out of a window,
Definitely.
let's not forget.
Definitely.
But he's not doing it for reasons of like self-importance,
Right, right.
or to, he's not using it to social climb. I feel like the reason Jamie pushed Bran out of the tower was self-preservation for
Yeah,
Cersei and the children. That
right.
would never have happened on a normal day. He's not going around
Yeah.
doing it en
Pushing kids
masse.
out, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
no.
exactly. Not that we're
Um,
justifying it, but it wasn't widespread. And there was a reason behind it, because he was
right.
terrified that he would tell Robert, and then the House of
Mhm.
Cards would
It would
crumble.
snowball effect and, like, mess
Absolutely. And so
up.
this is the thing. Some people say Jamie can never be redeemed because he did that. And that's fine. But he didn't do it for the fun of it. And
Uh-huh,
that's the
uh-huh.
difference. Do you know
Yes.
what I mean? And that's the
And
thing where I always urge people, don't take these characters at face value. let it sit with you for a moment. Have a little think about, like,
Yes.
what would you do in their shoes? Because my personal background, like my undergrad, was in history. My master's was in criminology and criminal
That's
justice. So
awesome.
these, thank you. But it frames how I approach everything. And
Right,
going back to
right.
being a teenager, history was my favorite subject in school, and I would always look at things like, okay, this is what we're being told. Let's
Mhm.
flip it 180 and see the
My
other
wife is
side.
the same way. You know what? I think that's why you both like SVU so much.
Oh yeah,
Yes, I
what would
meant to ask you
Benson do?
something. I was gonna ask you something later, but we'll leave it for later.
We may have to do a
Um,
spin-off episode all about
for
SVU because
SVU,
I
believe me,
could talk about that all day.
my wife will be seated right here if we do an
Yes.
SVU episode.
Oh, I am here for it because
That is
that
so
is like
good.
my sweet spot. That is my safe place, even though it's not, it shouldn't be, but it is.
Oh,
Like it's
yes, yes.
literally
I feel
every
you.
day I watch an episode every day.
I
So, but
understand
that's for a
you.
different day.
Yes, I understand you, and I'm sure that everyone else who's an SVU fan understands you as well. Um,
Yeah.
but it's something. It's very interesting that you pretty much what you're saying is that you look at both sides of the coin
Yes,
uh
100%.
to
Even when I don't
make
want to.
judgment exactly, and my wife is
Mhm.
literally the same way. Like she
Yeah.
goes about things the same way. um
And I feel like the
uh,
reason for this, and your wife may be able to speak on this and give
yeah.
her reasons. I feel like the reason why we do this is, maybe this is just me. I'm a little bit of a control freak in the sense that I want to know everything. I want to know the good, the bad. Like I feel like I
Yes,
could have been a
yes.
lawyer in real life.
My
I want to
wife
know, well, I
literally.
want to see the discovery. I want to see what the prosecution has, and then I want to see what the
Yeah.
defense has, and then
Yep.
I want to sit in the middle and I want to weigh the whole thing up, and so that
Yep.
I can be as informed as possible. And that's my mindset in how I dissect A Song of Ice and Fire. It's like, okay, this is my first thought, but what if I'm wrong? Because you just never know with this world. So
Yeah.
many twists
Yeah.
and
Totally.
turns. So
Absolutely.
I'm not going to set myself up for a fall. I'm going to try and take it all in. But there are
Hmm.
still people who are like, but you said this and that means, I'm like, no, no, no. Think what you want. You can't please
Right.
everybody. But for the
Uh,
majority of people, and I've had a lot of feedback recently, and it's been really lovely, of people saying, I understand why you approach things and explain things the way you do. It makes
Yes.
sense. And
Yeah.
from my where I'm coming from, and my background has always been to look at everything and scrutinize it all and try and flip things on their head. And I might come back and my final conclusion might be what I
Mhm.
first thought at the very
Yeah.
beginning, but I'll go
Yeah.
on that little journey just to tick off all the boxes to make sure, because I'm not going to go out there and be like, well, I think this. I can't back it up. I just think it. And
Right.
even when I've
Right.
had some wild theories, like I still stand by those wild theories because
Yeah.
there's a reason why I've thought this. And
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
history teacher, when I was about 13, said, you can make, and it's more of a lawyer type thing, but this is a history
Yeah.
teacher. She said, you can argue anything, anything, as long as you have a decent reason that will stand up to scrutiny. People don't have to like it, but they could be like, oh, fair point.
It
And
makes
that stuck
sense.
with me for 20 years. It's like that principle of, if you wanted to make a case, and as long as you're doing it in good faith, because that's
Right. Yeah.
kind of part of it. If
Yeah.
you're being disingenuous, that this doesn't apply. But if you're being sincere and you say, I have this reason and I can't rule it out, maybe it's a 1% chance, but I can't rule it out. So we
Yeah.
want to include it in the overall conversation because you just never
Right.
know. Do you know what I mean? And that's
I
kind of why I am the way I am with A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, etc.
that is a yeah, that I think that was a really good um how do you say in Spanish is enseñanza when you teach someone when
I
they're very
used to speak
young.
Spanish in school, and I'm ashamed to say
Really?
it's all gone out of my head. Like I can literally,
Oh,
yeah, like up in like from like 11 to 18, I did Spanish,
it
and
has to be there still, Kelly. I bet you. We
it
just
is
have
back.
to
It is
bring it
there.
out.
Yeah, the odd word will slip out, and a few like, so trabajo, just because, just for the
Trabajo, yeah.
bit, just for
Yeah,
that. And my
yeah.
accent is now. terrible. Like I speak like an English person trying to speak with a Spanish
Well, you
accent.
know what's interesting?
But
I've
it might
always
come
thought,
back to me.
well, a lot of words that are, well, English, but in your case, being from the UK, like for example, I kept this in mind because you said it earlier. I was like, huh. At first, I didn't know what it was, but then it hit me. You said bonnet, but then you said the
The
bonnet
hood of
of
the
the
car.
car. So
Yeah.
here in the States, they'll say the hood, just pop the
Yeah.
hood. In PR, or I say PR, Puerto Rico, where I'm from, it's bonete. I don't know if they have some other name for it. I don't know
Yeah.
if also it's a Spanglish thing, that since we are so heavily influenced with the United States, be
Yeah.
us being colonized and still a
Yeah.
colony, one of the oldest colony in the world, if not one of the last ones. Yeah. Um, so we have all this English influence. So
Yes.
you said bonnet. I was like, wait, is
It
she
yeah,
saying
like
the
the
hood?
bonnet of a car. That's the
Yes,
go-to word
bonete,
here. But
bonete
it's
in
funny
Spanish
how
for
these
us.
things all fuse and become new thing, and then there's influences of everything, and yeah, so there's it's definitely that.
Like you guys say, like aluminium, right?
Aluminium, yeah, and then you guys say
It,
aluminum?
exactly. Here they say
Yes.
aluminum, and since obviously Spanish is my main language and my wife's, uh, we both say like almost aluminium. Because in
Yeah.
Spanish is aluminio, so it's closer to aluminium than aluminum.
Yes.
um, so I don't know. It always kind of blows my mind, and I like it so much.
Yeah.
So listen, if you need Spanish practice and all that, don't be afraid to
I'll give
reach
you a
out
shout,
whenever you
yeah.
want, anytime, any damn time. I'm actually thinking about starting to do, I've been wanting to do more Spanish content.
Oh,
um
cool.
and I just can't find a way. There are ways. It just takes a
Mhm.
lot of time to put
Yeah.
the English subtitles, and TikTok does pretty good with translating and adding those captions.
Mhm.
Although you have to like turn it on or off, but
Yeah, it's still
other
time
apps don't
consuming
do
to
it.
sort out.
Yes,
Yeah.
other apps don't do it. So I would have to do it through CapCut, where I edit and
Mhm.
literally go word by word, because a lot of times the words aren't even like, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean the
I feel like
same
there is a
thing.
way to do it, but it's like just it's figuring it all out and being like, okay, what's the
Hmm.
game plan? How am I
Yeah,
approaching this and what have
right.
you? So
But anyways, that was such a cool, how do you say,
tangent.
yes, tangent.
Yes. I'm all about the tangents. I go off on
Yes,
tangents
I
all the
love it. I
time.
love it. I love it. So House of the Dragon. I meant to ask
Yeah.
you before we get more into House of the Dragon season 2, which we already kind of talked about it, but before we
Hmm.
get more like deeper into it, um what were your like general thoughts of season 1, and maybe you can include there the
Hmm.
things that you liked about season
Yeah.
1. um
Yeah.
if you obviously, if you want to put like criticisms, put them in there as well,
Um,
but for those of you that cry and say that people only talk about the bad things about House of the Dragon, no, I'm sure
yeah,
Kelly
I've
liked,
got some good and bad. It's a mixed
exactly,
bag.
yeah.
I do think first of all, I was glad to have a show where we're back in Westeros. It felt like going home. It was like, oh, we're
Hmm.
back. And
Yep.
that alone I loved. Um,
Yes.
I do think we should have had more time in season one to set the scene. I feel like we had a lot happen in 10 episodes. Um, Personally, like if I was in charge of the show, I would have gone, let's just squeeze a few more episodes in
Mhm.
to take our time. And the reason I say that is because we do get moments between individual characters. Like we get glimpses of dynamics here and there. Those are my favorite moments. And so, yes, we have the big scenes, but I like the intimate one on one moments. And we got a lot of them, but I always want more and more of that. So
Right.
I feel like I'm partly being greedy with what we got in 10 episodes. We did get some really great moments, like Alicent and Rhaenys having that conversation where basically Rhaenys is calling Alicent out on
Mm. Her
everything.
BS. Yeah.
And it was just watching those two actors in that moment was
Yes. So
fascinating.
good.
And it's just those little moments I would have loved even more between Alicent and her children, between Rhaenyra and her children, between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys. I would love to have
Harwin.
seen more of that, but I'm just being greedy. But I will say there's a lot of things I want to give House of the Dragon their props for. I
Mhm.
think that the writing sometimes, some of it's
Yeah.
a bit, but overall, it's an impressive production. It's a good show. I would recommend it to anyone. And the cast, like, regardless of whether you like a character or whether you
So
like the
good.
writing, the
So good.
cast, talk about like kicking it out of the park. Like, they nailed, everybody turned up and put in a great performance, even if it's
Yes.
someone in one little moment, like someone, you know in a few episodes, or somebody in every single episode.
Hmm.
Everybody did a great job, first of
Yep.
all. So that's the first thing I want to get out of the way. And the second thing is, there were moments that I absolutely loved that we would never have known about or have got without House of the Dragon. And the
Yeah.
one that comes to mind is the dynamics between the dragons and their riders. When we saw
Yes. Yes.
Daemon get fired with the flaming arrow, and
The
he kind of
arrow. I know.
recoils, and then Caraxes responds too. And we saw it with Rhaenyra and Syrax. Just seeing that I thought was a stroke of
So good.
genius. I
So
loved
good.
it
So
because
good.
we didn't see tons of dragon and dragon rider interactions on Game of Thrones. Daenerys was
Yep.
the only dragon rider.
Yep.
Well, technically Jon
Yeah.
Snow hopped on for a bit in The
Yeah.
Night King, but for the most part it was
He took a
Daenerys
little
and
ride. He took a
Drogon.
little ride.
Yeah, exactly. He just had a bit of a joyride. But yeah, basically, we didn't see the range of different dragons and different
Mhm.
riders like we do on House of the Dragon. And I don't know if this is going to be something they do, but I'm hoping that we see that continued with Aemond and Vhagar, because I loved seeing him bond with Vhagar.
Oh
That
my
scene where
God.
he basically is tiptoeing up to the dragon, like, poor kid
Yes.
is terrified, but
Yes.
so brave. Like, he has balls. I would never. I'd
Right.
be terrified, because there's got to be rumors about, oh, back in the day, somebody tried it with a dragon, and what
Yes.
happened to them. So I feel
Right.
like there's little horror stories they might have told the kids to keep them in line. Like, don't go in the dragon pit. The dragon will eat you. So I feel like they all grew up being like, these are not pets. And for him to do that, and for the way that that all played out, I absolutely loved it. And I'd love to
Yep.
see more of that. And the same for Egon and Sunfire. Like,
Yeah.
all of these different people, whoever came up with that notion of taking the dragon and the rider and just infusing them into one, that was brilliant. And I
Yes.
would love to see more of that. And I love
Yeah.
the dragons, the costumes, you know,
Which
some of the
got
writing
better
was
for
brilliant.
season
Like,
two.
everything for season two, I think, has taken a step up. Like, if we're going to compare one to two, and I know we've only seen promos and trailers,
Yeah.
I feel like House of the Dragon season two is like an upgrade. Like, we're taking it to the
Yeah.
next level. And I'm
Yes.
excited for that. The writing, the storyline,
Yeah.
that I don't know, because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
my issue is the changing of the age of Alicent, of aging Alicent down and making her best friends with Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
That is the central part. That's the beginning of the story, is these
Yeah.
two best friends. And obviously House of the Dragon has made the creative choice to go down that route, and that's absolutely fine. It's just, I still go back to the book and I'm like, older lady stepmother vibe,
Yeah. Yeah.
stepdaughter. It's a different vibe to best
Dynamic. It's
friends.
it's definitely a
Yeah,
different dynamic.
yeah.
And
And that's how
uh,
they're framing it. And so that's what we're going to be seeing. And that's
right.
fine. It's just different from what I envisaged in my head. But that's the thing. We're all reading the same material, and
Yeah.
in a circle of 10 people, not everyone is going to agree. It's like a jury
Hmm.
almost. Like, you're not going to
Yeah.
get everyone to be unanimous. So we're all going to have different ideas. And I feel like I'm trying not to be too hard on House of the Dragon, because they're coming at it and they're wanting to create something special.
Hmm.
I may disagree on a few choices here and
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
but I feel like they are, for the most part, they're trying their best. It's just this
I
is their
think
version, and we all have
okay,
our version. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely, and I think you said something very spot on when it comes to uh, this is a group of, like you said, like around 10 people, probably more than that, that includes writers, not only writers, and I was thinking about this the other day, not only the writers and the showrunner and whatnot, um, and George to some extent.
Yeah,
We
the
can talk about that
studios and
later.
everything.
But we do not consider a lot of times, and even more so for season two, now that these actors are more established, the actors, a lot of times, if you're like from the magnitude of Matt Smith, for example, coming into season one, they have their say as well as to how they view a character.
Yeah, that's absolutely a factor in all of this, because if you're
Yeah.
coming into a production kind of with the credentials of a Matt Smith, for
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
that by virtue of who he is will be different from an unknown actor coming in and maybe this being their first role. And it's like, do I say
More
anything?
acceptive.
What
Exactly.
do you know
Exactly.
what I mean? And it's a different, it's a melting pot of different experiences and people who've had, different experiences in terms of different productions, comparing that to a movie, to other TV
Hmm.
shows. Like they're all bringing their own perspective to the situation, but there is a difference between a high ranking public
Hmm.
name and somebody just starting out, or somebody
Yes.
that's maybe established but not well known in
Yes.
the public sphere. And,
Yep.
I don't know exactly, like I heard on Bridgerton that they're not allowed to change any wording. I don't know if this is 100% true. I heard that they have to stick to the script, even if the actors are like, well, what about this? No, no, this is what we're doing. Um,
Interesting.
I mean, if people can confirm or deny that's what I
Yeah.
heard.
Drop
And
it
it
in the
made me
comments.
think, yeah, if people can let us know, because that's interesting if that is the
Yeah.
case. Compared to other shows, it may be the case on House of the Dragon, or maybe it's not, where you're allowed to ad lib here or change something, and maybe it just works, and they're like, "Oh, that yeah, we got it. That's what we're
Yeah.
going to go with." You never
You
know.
you know what kind of made me thought about this, and it just hit me, is the fact that Emma Darcy, they came out and said something in the Variety, was it? There was some interview where they were talking about House of the Dragon and their interaction with Matt Smith, and how they want more screen time, that they petition more
Yes.
screen time for the next season. So that kind of
Yeah.
gives me the hint that they're not only Emma's but everyone else's, or at least who knows how it's based, but it feels like they have more of a say. They have, like, their opinions are more taken into
Yeah.
consideration,
And I think
hopefully.
even with the best of intentions from like the studios, the networks, the production side, even with the best of intentions, there is bias that creeps in. So if an established male actor who is, a headlining actor says one thing, that does carry sway, whether people realize it or not. Like it's almost a subconscious thing where it's like you give respect to the people who are named, and that's not always, it shouldn't be that way, but that's kind of how these things go, where if you have the kudos behind you, you've got this big name, people will inherently listen to you compared to a younger actor, especially if we're looking at like demographics, you
Yeah.
know a white man, he's going to be listened to just
Yep.
automatically more
Yep.
than a person of color, more than someone who's trans, more than
Hmm.
somebody who's a kid, even like
Yeah.
one of the young
Yeah.
actors. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Totally.
so that's an element. And I suppose to throw into the mix, you've got the studios, the networks, all of
Oh
the
yeah.
sort of behind the scenes dynamics that have nothing to do really with the story, but they
Yeah.
do have an impact. And so it's all of these things coming together. And I try not to be too critical of House of the Dragon, because I feel like they are all professionals. They're all probably
Yeah.
trying their best.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things to try and work in to create the perfect production. Maybe that's why it
So
takes
it
so
it
long between seasons.
true, yeah. I think it ultimately becomes a big old happy medium. It's
Yeah,
like, okay,
absolutely.
where do we all just can
Yeah,
meet halfway and we're all happy.
absolutely. It's
um
like it's sort of split the baby. Just let's go down the middle and try and just do what everyone wants. And I feel like George has hinted at possible, I don't want to say issues, but
yeah, yeah,
his
yeah,
recent blog post, it to me, it read like he was throwing a little sprinkle of shade at adaptations and things like
yeah.
that. Now, sometimes I think he does like to just drop a little bomb and watch everybody go crazy.
But
Like I feel like
if that's the case, if he's out here dropping bombs, damn it,
he
George,
seems the
you know how
type.
crazy like it is not the right moment to do it 2 weeks away.
No. Like
Second
he
of
was
all,
bored one morning, maybe, and was
yes,
like, let me start some shit.
I know.
I wouldn't put it past the man. I'm just saying.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't put it past him. But
But timing
I
is
feel,
everything.
do you feel maybe it's a little bit more of a jab towards D&D because they were talking about back a few weeks ago or like a
Yeah,
month ago whenever the three body problem came out?
I think it's one of those
I don't
situations
know.
where it's hard to really, yeah, it's hard to really
Yeah,
know. We're just kind of, we're trying to figure out what everyone means by what they're
yeah,
saying, and sometimes we're given things very cryptically. I think I think George, this is just my opinion. I think he was
yeah, yeah,
disappointed with the with how the show ended. I think
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think he was like, okay, well that's done. We can't cry over spilt milk.
yeah,
But he did this entry just after the final episode aired, and it was not as complimentary of the finale and the ending as I would imagine it would be had he signed off on everything. It felt like, okay, you've taken my baby and you've created something else. I'm not co-signing it. That was the vibe
yeah,
I got back then.
yeah.
And then with his recent comments, it's interesting timing given that he is involved with other productions like the Night of the Seven Kingdoms
Yes,
whole
I
thing,
know.
potentially the Conquest that's still floating around. There's a lot of things in the pipeline that are, in production, sort of, kind of happening, but we don't know when. I feel like him saying anything will automatically be blown up into a big deal.
Yeah, yeah,
And it makes you wonder. I don't know why he's alluding to these things, but I think the elephant in the room is there is some disharmony, put it that
yeah,
way. There's
yeah.
something where he's implying adaptations this, adaptations that. And so I feel like it's mainly targeted more towards Game of Thrones.
It has to
But
be because
because the way it ended was, I also think partly, storyline aside, it ended so quickly. It was like, oh, we're done. And I
my
think he,
biggest fucking problem
yeah,
every time I talk about the
yeah,
ending and I wrote it always pisses
like
me off
six,
because
was it 6 episodes in season 8?
6 fucking
And
episodes
that is a mini series, my friend. That is something you binge watch in one night. Like that is a Netflix special. Like that, six
for
episodes is not enough.
especially for a show that was known for the character development. Even if the story is different from the book, it don't
Yeah,
matter. You spent so much time from season 1 through maybe even up to 6 spending
yeah,
more time with characters
yeah. It
to
felt so
then just
rushed.
shorten things out just because you
Yeah.
want to get the hell out.
Yeah. Even if
It's like,
you agree, like even if you're like, I think Daenerys went mad and that was right, that
yeah,
I
yeah,
obviously hate saying the words,
yeah,
but
yeah.
plenty of people have good reason for why they feel that way. And I'm not here to tell anyone that they're wrong. But
Mhm.
even if you felt it was always coming, the way that it happened, like that, like,
Yes,
if you want to go down that route, we can do that begrudgingly, but at least do it right. Do it
right.
in a way that is very clear, where there is not as much ambiguity, because
Yeah,
anyone can take any moment and say, like, I've seen people say, Well, she went mad because look what she did, tricking Krasnis to acquire the Unsullied. And I'm like, I don't feel bad for
Please.
Krasnis
I do
one
not. If
bit.
you feel bad for
Like,
Crassus, or any of
yeah,
you, if you feel bad for that mofo, what is
exactly.
wrong with you?
Exactly. Like, at what point have we lost touch with reality? Like, yeah,
Yes.
you can extrapolate anything, and phrase it in a certain way to make your argument, but it's disingenuous. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
if you wanted to play the route of Daenerys becoming her father, turning, going mad, all of this, there is a way to thread that needle that they didn't do that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
there are ways to do that if you want to do it right. And I feel like, and again, I'm just making assumptions. I feel like George always planned on 10 seasons, and
Mhm.
I feel like he was caught unawares, like, oh, we're not doing that now. Oh, it's
Right.
going to be 8, and with shorter episodes, and shorter number of episodes, I should say.
Mhm.
um you're going to pay the price for cutting corners, because I think that's what it felt like. It felt like,
Yeah.
when you're like, when you would do your homework and by the very end you were like, I don't even care what I'm
I
writing.
know.
It was like, let me get this project
Literally.
done so I can turn
Yep.
it in. I no longer care.
Just for the sake
That's
of
what,
finishing.
yeah, just to be like,
I'm
done.
done.
I can wash my
Yep.
hands. That's how it felt. Not to everybody, but to a huge majority.
Mhm.
Even if you liked
Even
certain
for ex
things.
even for people like, and hell, if I'm the only one, I don't care. But even for someone like me who is such a huge fan of the show, um, like I even take moments from season 7 and 8 that I absolutely love, and I've watched
Oh,
like
we can talk
like
about
season
that because,
7,
yeah, the loot
what's the
train,
name? The loot train scene. I've watched that
one
damn
of my
episode
favorites. I
like at
love that
least
scene.
20 damn times. So there are
Honestly, I
incredible
could watch that
moments.
every day. Like, that could be my
Yes.
get out of bed, like, get up and start your
Yes.
day. Watch
Actually,
this, you'll have
I
fire in
have
your belly.
yes, I have one like pretty awesome canvas. You can't see it here right now. I can show you later. But it's about that scene where Jamie is gonna attack Danny, and Drogon turns around and
Yeah.
oh my god, I
It
get
was that
chills every fucking
moment,
time.
that split second before Jamie ended up like in the water. It was like,
Mhm.
is he
Yep.
crazy? That is one of the
Yes.
best things that they added into the show. Like, there are so many
Yes.
good moments. I will never
Hmm.
write off 7 and 8 entirely, because there
Yeah.
are moments that I'm like, when Brienne was
They
knighted,
make me feel
like,
something. They
yes, absolutely. It's not a total write-off. Like, Brienne
hmm
being knighted, I loved that in season 8.
yes.
And I'm so glad that we got that moment for that character. I was
Yeah.
cheering, I was rooting for her. I loved that they included that. It's just the negative outweighs the positive for me
Ah,
when you look at the last
absolutely.
couple of years. But it's not to say that there were not some phenomenal moments, like
Yeah.
Olenna Tyrell going out like a badass. Like, that was spectacular. I was sad. I wasn't ready to say
Oh,
goodbye.
of course.
But if you're
Yeah.
going to go out, that is the way to do it.
And you know what's interesting? And again, people, sorry for the tangent right now, but I'm sure you guys are enjoying this as much as we are. We'll
We're
get
down the rabbit hole now.
House of the Dragon here in a second. But something that I realized when I was reading A Storm of Swords was we find out that Olena did what she did in A Storm of Swords through Littlefinger. I believe
Hmm.
he tells Sansa, right?
Yes.
Um, and I was like,
Do we
ooh,
believe him? Quick
ooh,
question. Do we
oh,
trust Littlefinger?
true, true. That is true. That
Not that
is
I'm
true.
against it, 'cause I'm kind of, I'm happy to believe it. But at the same time, I'm like, if it comes from him, I'm like, but you're a
True.
born
Take it with a pinch of
liar.
salt. Take
Pinch
it
of,
with a
yeah,
pinch of
actually a bucket of salt. I'm still,
true, exactly.
yeah, I'm still very here for it. Like, I don't
Yes.
dislike it. I just,
Yes.
whenever someone says Littlefinger, I'm like, ooh, do we trust him?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
his track record has been to lie to people's faces.
Yes,
And
true.
he's lied to Sansa in the past. why wouldn't he do it now? I mean, even
Right.
if it was Olenna, like I'm cool with that, but I'm not ruling out anybody else just
Right.
because
Okay. Okay.
you can't always take Littlefinger at his word. But
That is true. I
sorry, back
didn't
to
think
what you were
about that.
saying. Sorry for
But
interjecting.
no, no, you're fine. But what I thought was at the moment I was like, "Ooh, this is good," because it happened a different way than how we got it in the show. But the way we got it in the show was fucking peak.
Mm,
How she tells Jamie to
mm,
his face that she
yeah.
was the one that did the Joffrey thing.
Oh, it was
We find
just
out so many
spectacular.
seasons after, and
Hmm.
then you can't freaking do anything about it because she just freaking,
Swallow the
took
poison.
herself out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go out in any way, that's how you do it. Because
Yes,
Jamie, he was picking his jaw off the floor. He was
I
like,
know. He didn't even have time to react. Like,
yeah, he was
he,
like, there was no time to ask questions. It
no,
was
no,
old lady was down. Like she was like, peace out, I'm gone. So
man.
that was brilliantly done. Like I love the Tyrell family. Like that can
Yes,
be a whole other conversation. So
yeah.
seeing them all knocked off one by one, I was sad. I was like, oh, it's a
Hmm.
shame. I enjoy them
Yes,
on the screen,
yeah.
but at the same time, that is the perfect way to bow out of anything.
Absolutely,
And it's
absolutely.
just things like that. I will give the show their credit
Yeah.
all day, every day, because there was never a season that did not have a jaw-dropping moment or a moment where we were all cheering or something like that.
Hmm.
Every
Yeah,
season
yeah.
had something brilliant that was not in the books, that was
Hmm.
purely their invention. And
Yes.
House of the Dragon, they have some brilliant moments, and I'm
Mhm.
absolutely like I go in on the show, so I feel like I really have to give them credit where it's due, because there are brilliant moments. I don't think you can ever write off any season, even though I think
Yeah.
from what we're seeing, I feel like I'm going to enjoy season two more. I
Yeah.
say that, we don't
Yeah.
know.
No, we'll
But
see. Yeah.
I feel like, okay, every season has really great moments, and
Yeah.
moments that were not in the books, that were purely created for the purposes of the show, and
Hmm.
they made the show better. And things like the loot train, like that was brilliant, and that felt very authentically George. I could see that being something that he
Yes,
would write.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe not necessarily in Westeros, because the more I think about it, I think Daenerys 99% will not come to Westeros. I
Really?
think. Yeah, I just
Ah.
unless it depends on where the long night battle happens, whether it takes place in Westeros or whether it's more of a global thing, because I
Ah.
feel like, it when you look
I
at the
didn't think
whole
about that.
unit, do you know what I mean? It's like
Well,
it might
obviously you've
be
you're
war.
you're you're you've read the books so many times and stuff. I'm only about to start a Feast
The
for
only
Crows,
reason I
but
s- the only reason I
hmm,
say this is because with the first long night in the law and everything like that, it's sort of everywhere experienced their version of what we call the long night.
yeah.
The river the Roynar River froze. There was things that were happening everywhere. So I feel like we don't necessarily know where the big culmination of all of this will happen. Will it be near the wall in Westeros?
Yeah.
Probably. But at the same time, it could happen in Essos. I feel like she won't come to Westeros before then. Like she's only going to turn up when it's time for that big battle, because she's got a lot to do in Essos. Daenerys is very
Ah,
busy. So she's
that's
got a lot
really
going on.
interesting. That is
So
so
it's just a little
interesting.
aside. It's just that, when we think of like, because I've seen a lot of comparisons to the long night being sort of a nod towards climate change, things like that, a global issue, not regional. So it'll be interesting if we ever get the final two books, if
Ah,
it'll be focused on Westeros, because obviously that is the main place that
right.
where,
Yeah.
where we hone in on. But I'm not ruling out other locations just because we're told about all this. So
Hmm.
it could happen somewhere else. It probably is going to happen in Westeros, more than
Right.
likely, because a lot of people are there. But at the
Right.
same time, I'm just not ruling anything out. So that's my tangent. I'll
Absolutely.
take my
Absolutely.
tinfoil hat off.
Man, oh. Kelly, we need the A Song of Ice and Fire episodes now more
I
than
know
ever.
we need to get into it. We really do.
My God. I have believe me, I have so many things that I've like thought
Yeah,
about while
my
reading
brain too. I've got so many things. Just I'm like, what about this? What about that? Da 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 da
and
da 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 da.
and
And before you know
everything.
it, you're in a world
Yes,
of your own.
yes, everything kind of started picking up midway Clash of Kings. Then it kind of like it doesn't die down because that
Mhm.
book is like it starts off, and on high, and it
Yeah.
pretty much ends on high. But A Storm of Swords, it gets to a point from the get-go is incredible. The prologue, I give the nod to the prologues of 1 and 2. I think
Hmm.
those are so good. Not
I
that the
really
third one
like
is
the one
bad,
for Clash of
but
Kings for book two. That one,
oh,
it's
yes.
just like, wait, what's happening? It's
Yes,
it's one of
yes.
those things where you're like, it's just because it's so intentional to be like the
Mhm.
prologue. It's him really letting you all know like this is where we're gonna be, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh,
Yep.
okay. It's
Yep.
it's the perfect
Yep.
teaser.
Man, there's after reading A Storm of Swords, I have so many questions that they need their own episode for real.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Oh, we can get into
Um,
it.
you know
Yeah.
what? You know what? We can probably do a 24-hour. Obviously, we
Like
won't be able because we need
megathon.
to sleep.
Yeah,
Yes, but do like a
24-hour
24-hour
stream.
live stream,
Yeah, we
and
literally
actually
could.
we can even throw in because I know you're uh like pro humanity and all of this. You're such an awesome person. We can even
Oh,
do like
thank you.
whatever gifts they send us, we're gonna give to like the Palestine stuff and like everything that's going on. I
Yeah,
don't know.
absolutely.
Just ideas,
It's
ideas
an
that are starting
idea.
to.
Yeah, let's have a think about this because
Yes,
I'd be
I think it
game for
would be
that.
really good,
Because
and that way we can use our love for this fandom and like
to do
put
something
it to
positive.
use for other.
Yes,
Yes, that would be
100%.
awesome. Okay, Kelly. So going back to something that you talked about when it comes to the dragons, and I wanted to absolutely bring it up because I think it's a very interesting point since there has been a lot of talk, and I'm sure you've seen it when it comes to how the dragons looked, more specifically their colors. Because
Hmm.
obviously in the book we get a lot of descriptions. And I want to
Yeah.
say for all of you that have criticized the colors of the dragons, I understand you. I have a little different opinion, and I'm gonna go into like a different thing that I think we should be sort of like praising as well. And it's
Hmm.
the fact that um even though they have not maybe given us the colors like in the book, one thing that I think they've done really good with the dragons and House of the Dragon is that they've not only given them very good personalities, and you kind of talked about it when it comes to the bond between the dragons and dragon riders, Damon,
Yeah.
Caraxes, Rhaenyra, and Cyrax, my sweet Cyrax. Something that and not only goes with their character and the way they act around their dragon riders, but what I like the most as well is their look, like the form of the dragons. For example, Moon Dancer, because I've been obsessed with Moon Dancer since the first time I
One of my
saw her
favorites.
on the trailer.
Yes.
Actually, I might be able to bring it up here, but here in a
This
few
teeny
seconds.
little green dragon, just a
Yes,
small little
something
thing.
such a beautiful little thing. What I thought they did an awesome job at was, did you look at the striped membranes of the
Oh, on
wings?
like the wings and stuff.
Yes, I thought
Yeah.
that was like a very, very cool detail that I don't remember that from the book. So that has to be like
Yeah.
an
I feel like
add-on.
the little details, like things like I feel like from the glimpses that I saw of Moondancer in I mean, it was blink and you miss it, but when we broke it
Yeah,
down and everything, it was almost
right.
like their wings were translucent in a way. Like
Yes.
it was with flying over the tops of trees and things. It was almost
Mhm.
like you could see through the wing, like through the membrane or something. And it's little details like that and like little features. I do think it's a very high bar. Like I would not want to be in charge of the dragons, of all
Right.
that. But I feel like they've done very well, given that there's a lot of dragons. I take for granted that maybe you do yourself, where you're like, we know the names, we know who rides who, but not
Right.
everyone has that knowledge. And so making them distinct, I think the only criticism I have from season one with the dragons was it's only because I've talked about them in videos.
Yeah.
It's trying
Yeah.
to get a screenshot of like Sunfire.
Mhm.
There's like one or two images where it's basically not even a real frame. It's like a tiny glimpse. And so you have like a blurry image of some of the
Yes.
dragons. Like it was when they were climbing on, I think it was on Driftmark, where there was the big group of dragons,
Oh,
everyone
yes,
together.
yes.
And I remember trying to zoom in or get a higher quality image to kind of see a bit more in detail.
Right.
But having said that, for season two, they've definitely upped the ante, and we're seeing a lot of the dragons and closer up for more time and more detail. So
Yeah.
that I'm very excited on, because as much as like the people make the story, the dragons are such a huge part of it, and they
Yeah.
are, it's like their own story is running along simultaneous to the human
Mhm.
story, and
Yep.
then that's running along simultaneously to the greater story, that fire and ice and the
Yeah.
others and things like that. There's so many layers, and I feel like I'm always rooting for the dragons. I always want to see
Mhm.
them on my screen. And in terms of like season two, just from the promos and the trailers,
Yeah. Yeah.
seeing Egon riding on Sunfire, obviously I'm not Egon's biggest fan, but I was
Yeah.
cheering him on because I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, you get on your dragon, you go for a
yep.
ride, you
Yep.
go and do a lap around King's Landing if you want. I don't know where you're going, but maybe you're having a little fly. But it's just nice to see those interactions.
I think it is. I think it is, it's definitely something that I look forward to, and it can be sort of like a segue into House of the Dragon season 2, but, I am most definitely looking forward to seeing more, like, see to what point do they expand the whole dragon aspect of the
Mhm.
show, the story. um and by the way, something that before we go into season 2, I'm sorry, I keep going back a
Yeah,
little bit
no,
to season
go
1.
ahead.
And the only reason, also, you can kind of bring it into season 2 as well. Something that I really like about season 1 is that it feels like smaller details were really expanded when it comes to world building. I know we spent
Yes,
way more time in King's Landing and whatnot, but even within King's Landing, we got to see things that we had never seen in Game of Thrones. Like that
fully
part,
agree.
which is one of my favorite. I've watched the intro, or like that beginning part of House of the Dragon season 1, where
With
Cyrax
Emma
with
doing the
Rhaenyra.
voiceover, like, oh,
Yes,
that was,
and when
what
they're
an opener. Like, that was
I get
brilliant.
I get chills. So that part,
Absolutely.
whenever Cyrax is flying with Rhaenyra above the
Yeah.
clouds and they fly into King's Landing, and you see King's Landing,
See
the
the dragon
expansion
pits,
of the
see
world building,
everything.
and then when
Yeah.
she lands at the dragon pit and you have what would you call them? The like Valyrian dragon keepers? Dragon keepers?
The dragon keepers, yeah. I think that's what they are, yeah.
Right? I
I don't think
thought
they
that
have
was
like an
such
official
a really
title or anything. I think they're just the
probably, yeah.
dragon keepers. Maybe there is a word and we just don't know it. I don't know, because
Yeah.
I feel like there is a, I feel like they stem from a long line, almost like a guild of dragon keepers that probably have a very fancy name, but seeing
Probably like
as
the arch,
Westeros,
like maesters,
yes,
maybe, but
exactly.
for dragons.
They're maesters of dragons in a sense, and I feel like that went back, generations back to old Valyria, and that's probably a Valyrian term for what they are, but it's been
Right,
Westerosi-eyed, so that they just
right.
call them dragon keepers, if you know what I mean. So, but there, that was another interesting little tidbit, little bits here and there that we didn't get to see because that was not the case with Game of
Mhm.
Thrones. So it's just
Right.
those little moments and just seeing everything kind of, it's like you're looking at the same world. Obviously it's 100 and so years beforehand, and it's the same but different because there's all
Mhm.
these other things. And for fans of the shows, we're just going to eat it all up, like seeing
Oh,
King's
absolutely.
Landing, seeing all of the different aspects, seeing different rooms in the Red Keep. Like I loved seeing the room with Viserys with his like I say Lego set, but his
Lego
like
set? No, it
thing,
is the
yeah,
Lego set.
his Lego, and then like
Yes.
seeing the different rooms that they're all in, seeing Damon and Rhaenyra walking in and like looking around, seeing the big
Yep.
staircase, all of that. That's things that we didn't always get to see. And then when you
Yep.
saw Rhaenyra and Alicent running across the patio, across that courtyard that we used to see on Game of Thrones, but obviously
Mhm.
it was different. It's just like little nuggets for the fans, like for the
Yep.
people from the olden days. Like, this is for you guys. Do you remember this? I
Yep.
love to see that. And I'm excited to see more of Dragonstone, which is like one of, if not my favorite location in the books. Like, I'm excited to see the dragons on the Dragonmont and all of the like the architecture as well. Like, I want to see more of that big table because that table is so cool. When they
The
put the
promos.
logs under and all the and then it lit up, I
Oh
was
my god.
like, where can I get one of those? Because
I know.
if HBO sold them, if Max sold them, I'd buy one. I'm telling you
Man,
now, I would buy that painted table and have it
and
as my dining table.
I would probably I feel like I would probably need to come up with a GoFundMe to to buy
Oh
that
yeah, oh yeah. If I win the lottery, I'd buy one. But if somebody
because,
happens to
man, it's
make these
so
tables and
awesome.
wants to send it for free, I will not say no. I'm just
That would
saying, if
be
there's any
that
table
would
makers
so
out
be
there,
yes, true, true.
yeah,
That is true.
maybe a small
Um,
bedside table, just a small one, but it would be
could you
cool.
imagine? Could you imagine not oh my listen now. That I think you just started something. I feel
Like,
like
I feel
once we're
like we
done
could
with the podcast, you should put in what do you call that? What do you call those? The patents? One of those
yeah,
patents?
I'm gonna get my name on some things. I'm like, this is my idea, guys.
Because I
I want to,
think you're onto
pay me the
something.
money because
Bedside
there's this or
table.
that. Oh yeah, because I also no shade to not that they've sent me anything, but no shade to like the merch from like the Warner Brothers merch. But I'm like, I could do a better job. I'm just some of it's great, some of it I'm
Yes,
like,
yeah, yeah. I feel you.
come on, people. Like, are you hiring? Because I can
Yeah.
help. I can sort you guys out. I know what the people want.
Yes, absolutely. So I would definitely have the I would have that table as my dinner table for
Yeah.
sure.
Imagine
Um,
inviting people round, just like, yeah, have
oh
a
my
seat.
god. I would just have listen, I have my Targaryen, well, I say Targaryen, it's not really a Targaryen, but I have my Targaryen wig right here because I love making it's been a while actually. I'm saving it for House of the Dragon season 2
Just
when
give
it
it a
comes
comb
out.
through, it'll be fine. Just
Yes, yes. I told my wife already. She needs to help me out. She did a
yes,
little
get
thing
her on
back
it.
there.
She'll sort you out. Yeah, no
Yes,
worries.
yes. I need a little bit of help, but um,
But you
man,
gotta
I
look
would
the part,
just
haven't you? So
uh, yeah.
you gotta
Uh,
look the part.
yep, exactly. I would just invite people home, and I'll just be standing right there with my Targaryen ass wig over
You should get
here
one of
and
those
looking at them.
chalices. Have you seen the really fancy goblets that have like Stark or
Yes.
Targaryen? Like, they're really expensive, and I'm like, I can't
Yep.
afford
Yep.
that today, but they look great. And I just feel like having that table and just converting my living room or my dining room into like Dragonstone. I
Oh
would kind of
man.
live for that. I would just say,
Yes,
in an ideal world,
absolutely.
if I won the lottery, just
Yep.
saying.
Ah, it doesn't cost anything to dream.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
but, what were we talking about season 1? Sorry.
The dragon. We're talking about the dragons, and then going
Dragons
into
and
season
going into
two.
season 2.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? Whatever. Let's go into season 2. Kelly,
Yes.
what are you most looking forward to for House of the Dragon season 2? And really, you can go wherever you want. You can go new
Ooh.
characters, you can go,
Um.
like, general
Ooh.
plot, however you want.
Um. I'm excited for the story to move on, for us to get things going. I'm excited to see individual characters and how they are coping, specifically Rhaenyra, Alicent, Rhaenys. Like, I'm drawn to the women characters for obvious reasons, and I'm curious about how all of these different events are going to affect them all. Surely, all very differently, I imagine. I'm looking forward to the locations, seeing new castles, seeing
Mm,
places that we haven't seen before. I don't know if we're going to see somewhere like Old Town. be interesting if we did. I'm excited for Harrenhal. I'm excited to see Jane
Yes, the
Arryn in the
Veil.
Eyrie.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see Winterfell and the
yeah,
Wall and see what
yep,
the Wall looked like 150, no, 170,
yeah.
yeah,
72.
170 years before
Oh
Jon
no,
Snow
at this
turned
point,
up.
yeah, at this point, yeah, like 150. True.
Yeah, like they may have changed a few things by the time Jon Snow rocked up at the
Mm-hmm.
Wall. So again, it's just comparing the two. The thing that I'm most interested in is seeing how each person kind of steps up to the plate and whether
Yes.
they do at all, because I feel like the reality of the situation is nobody really deep down would ever pick to go to war. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
ideal. So nobody, even Aegon, who's like, oh, off to war we go. He's
Mm-hmm.
not
He's only
really.
doing it
It's
for
bravado.
revenge. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to look like a confident king, but
Yes.
nobody desires this because it's costly, because it's, you could be doing other things, it affects trade, it's all these things. War's never good for anyone. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really curious as to whether people are going to approach it like this is not good for anybody the way I
Yeah.
see it, or whether they're
Yeah.
going to dig their heels in and go, well, I feel how I feel and nothing's changing that. And that I think is going to be interesting. I feel like Rhaenyra, from what the hints are, is that she's going to be more involved going forward than what she's described as being in Fire and Blood, which basically
Yeah.
is, for the most part, for what we're going to be covering in season 2, she's mainly at Dragonstone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think is the timeline. But it does seem like we see her striding towards Cyrax. So I'm like, where's she going? What's she
Yeah.
doing?
Yep.
And so I'm curious about how everyone handles things. That's my biggest thing. I'm excited for Baela Targaryen. I'm
Oh, I
I'm
know.
loving anything with Baela in.
Ooh.
I want it done right, but I
Yes.
feel like the way that Bethany Antonia has played Baela in the few moments we got, and I'm including the
Mm-hmm.
deleted scene from season 1 with Rhaenys. That scene, I don't know why they deleted it. It was one of my favorite moments. I mean, maybe it was time constraints, but
Is
when
there
she
a
said,
full-on clip about this scene?
"Yep, yeah," someone recorded it at a convention or something, and it was just a clip
Oh.
where
Oh, I think I
Rhaenys
remember a little bit.
yeah, Rhaenys and Baela are speaking at Dragonstone, kind of off to the side, and she's
Yeah.
saying, I have to take a stand. This is not right. I'm going to fight for my queen. And obviously,
Yes.
the ripple effects are you're also fighting for your own self, for your
Mm,
father, for your betrothed, for your house. Everyone's
yeah.
connected. So it's a
Yeah.
team effort. And Rhaenys obviously is frightened because she doesn't want to
Mhm.
lose any more people. She's
Yeah.
concerned. But when she says to Baela, for a second there, I saw my own daughter in the flesh once again, the spirit of Lena.
Yeah.
That for me was just, they should have kept that in, because when I talk
Yes.
about it and when I've shown clips, so many people comment on my videos like, we didn't know this was a thing. And it really helps to explain Baela. And I'm interested in seeing Baela and Rhaena, because there's been this little
Mhm.
hint in that article about possible division between the sisters. When we're not sure
Oh,
if it's
really?
just a little, well, it was something that Phoebe Campbell, I believe it was, who alluded to, saying that because Baela and Rhaena were brought up on the show
Different.
in separate locations,
Right. Yeah.
that's going to have an impact on how you feel when you're all together. Would Rhaena feel more included? Would Baela feel more included? It's interesting that she, I believe they go by they them pronouns. It's
Okay.
interesting they said anything at all, because I didn't think there was an issue, but it was just a little nugget saying things might not be quite so straightforward, even for people on the same team. And that's probably another thing I'm looking forward to. How are these teams going, like Team Green, Team Black? How are they going to navigate everything with each other? Because within this
True.
team, you've got all these people, and
Right.
everyone has a different opinion, everyone has a different idea. And how do you cope with that? How do you manage that? And what will that play out as? Like when we're seeing Eamon potentially questioning Alicent, and I'm thinking, okay, what does that actually mean going forward? Are you just blowing off steam? Are you just
Right.
venting to a companion, to Kristen Cole? Or do you really question her motives and her loyalty? And I think for me, the area that is a bit of a black box, like I can't really gauge, is whether, because obviously it's just a show creation, Rhaenyra and Alicent, will either one have their loyalties questioned because of this previous connection, this past friendship?
Right.
And given that it was 20 years ago, pretty much by the time we get to the Dance of the Dragons, it'll be interesting to see, does that old bond still exist? How is that affecting things? We saw glimpses at the end of season one, Rhaenyra holding the letter. I didn't like that. I thought
Yeah.
it wasn't for me. I wanted
Yeah.
her to be a bit more assertive. I didn't really want her to emotionally, like, I didn't want her to cry in front of anybody else, like maybe in
Yeah.
private,
Yeah.
but I didn't
Yeah.
want her to give satisfaction to other people.
Especially at that moment being in front of Otto Sne
Yeah,
for those of you, I always call him Otto Sneaky Snake Hightower. So,
that's his name. Yeah, the same way I call Kristen Cole Sir Crispy or Sir Coleslaw. I
yes,
actually quite
yes,
like. I think it was Matt Smith who said it's
Christmas.
Sir Christmas Cole.
Yes,
And I feel like the person who probably loves that name more than anyone
yes,
is Fabian Frankel. He's probably
yes,
like, I'm going to sign
yes,
everything Christmas Cole. It's kind of brilliant.
it is.
So,
But yes, I'm with you. I think that would have been it would have been a better moment if uh she would have done that, like,
yeah. And I
on
think
her
part of
own.
it is, it's like, part of the issue is there's a war happening and we
Hmm.
have these leaders. We have Egon, we have Alicent, Otto, Lara Strong, all of them on that side. Rhaenyra, Daemon, Rhaenys on this side. And the thing is where we've got this situation where we're looking at these individual people, but also they're being viewed by the masses as their commanders in chief, that they're the ones in charge. So that moment where Rhaenyra sheds a tear, I mean, maybe no one else could have really seen the tear,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
she's got to put on a certain kind of, almost a bit like Elizabeth I, sort of standing up in front of her troops and being the figurehead. There's a certain amount, you've got to make sure they are confident in you. And so that little moment with the tear, I just felt, maybe in private have that moment
Mm,
with yourself, but you've got to have your game face on,
yeah.
because there is a war that will engulf you if you do not take it seriously. And so there's all these different dynamics, because as much as you have people who don't like the advancement of women in Westeros, but there's
Mhm.
still people who are kind of moving with the
Or
times.
yeah, yeah,
It's not so alien, but regardless of whether you're completely for Rhaenyra or against her, there are these stereotypes that
yep.
all the female characters are having to battle with. And you've got these things where, especially with Rhaenyra and the Rhaenyra the Cruel name that she's given, it's like, well, if we're going to start calling Rhaenyra the Cruel, okay, I can call a few other people so
Oh,
and so the Cruel. We can get
definitely,
into that list. But
definitely.
I think it's going to be interesting to see whether her actions are used against her, or actions done in her name are going to be used against Rhaenyra, and it's going to be amplified because as a woman she shouldn't behave this way. You're meant to be motherly, you're meant to be
Right.
welcoming. As much as there's so many dynamics that are battling one another, and so it's interesting to me how the show is going to approach that, because if there is, for example, say Rhaenyra does something and it doesn't pan out the way that everyone thought, as the one in charge, she bears the brunt of the responsibility. The buck stops with
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
And are they going to view her with sympathy because she's trying her best? The way that you would probably sympathize with, the person in charge of your platoon or the guy in charge. You would probably say, well, they're trying their best. I'm
Right.
curious as to whether the misogyny is used against Rhaenyra, and it's almost worse because she's a woman, because
Mhm.
she's expected to behave in a certain way, and if she doesn't, will that inflame people who don't like her, and then she becomes Rhaenyra the Cruel when she's not doing anything different than anybody else? Like,
Right.
they're all messy, they're all cruel at different moments. Do you know what I mean? It's
Definitely.
like
Definitely. Definitely.
she ain't the only cruel one. So
Yeah, I think that you said it perfectly when it comes to her character and the hopes that we have with her character in season 2 of House of the Dragon. Something that I'll add to that, because I'm pretty much along the same lines. It's something that you even mentioned in one of your most recent videos on TikTok, and I talked about it with Mark. You know House of Nettles?
oh yes,
Yes,
we love
we
House of Nettles. Yes.
yes, he's
He's
awesome.
been
So
absolutely tickling me with some of his videos lately.
he
He's just been,
always, when we first got together on the podcast, it was like, dude, I found out about you through a video being funny as F, and from there
it's the he
on,
does a
it just
straight face. I couldn't do it. I would break character. It's just when he
man,
keeps going, and I'm like, I'm crying laughing, and I'm like,
yes,
how is he putting this
yes,
together? I wouldn't be able to film it in one go.
I
So
know.
hats off.
But yes, Mark, shout out to Mark, House of Nettles. We talked about the fact that if he thought or not that Rhaenyra would be more battle active in season 2. And I think you mentioned it in one of your most recent TikTok videos. In my case, at the moment when we talked about it, me and Mark, I said that I would be interested in having a Rhaenyra that is more uh active battle wise than what we
Yeah,
got in Fire and Blood, because first of
yeah.
all, Fire and Blood is all, the story is told to us or read
It's
to us or
secondhand,
narrated to
isn't
us
it?
through friggin' BS Archmaester
Yeah.
Gildane, one of the other
You've got
sneaky
to really
snakes.
wade through and try and get to the truth. You've got to really like
Exactly.
wade through all the crap and be like, can you just
Hmm.
tell me what actually happened, please?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's
So
the thing. We don't know how involved she was. That's the thing with Fire and Blood, and what I try and get across to people is that there's so much that could have been left out for everybody. There's things
mhm,
like in a history book, if you're writing something, there's only, you can only fit so much in, I suppose. There are moments that maybe Gildane thought that wasn't relevant, but obviously with different perspectives, it could be relevant. There's things that are missing in the story, and we've got to try and fill in the gaps with common sense and be
yes.
reasonable about what's most likely. And I feel
Yeah.
like we do get this reference to Rhaenyra being absolutely distraught, not being able to take an active role initially because of her grief. Basically, Rhaenys and Corlys step up to the plate. Is That's the impression that we're given, and that
Mhm,
Daemon's doing his thing. She's absolutely inconsolable and will only deal with mushroom. So it's going to be interesting to see, because from what we're being teased, it looks like it's going to be different. We don't know how the show's going to play out, but from what they're showing us in the trailer, Rhaenyra does seem to be more assertive. And I think that is going to be interesting, because that's kind of what I hope will happen.
yes.
But at the same
Yes.
time,
Yes.
I mean, this is Westeros. This is Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. I'm
Mhm,
expecting curveballs. I'm
yes.
expecting moments that I hate. I'm expecting moments I
Mhm.
love. The whole spectrum. And there's going to be moments that I'm like, oh, that was not for me. But that could be the
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
that somebody else absolutely loves for different
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
So it's not for me to tell anybody that that's right or wrong. We're all going to take different things from it. But what I think would be really interesting is seeing this assertive female character who, from what we can gather, from what the descriptions are in Fire and Blood, and from what we see on season one, she's a bit of a pampered princess, just like Cyrax. Rhaenyra's grown up in that bubble of wealth and privilege, and that is part of who she is. You can't get away from that. She could be a bit of a brat at times. You know, I suppose they all could be raised in that
Yeah.
royal
Yeah.
environment. But what's
Right.
interesting is she has this gender role reinforced to her time and again. And now that gender is being put on the biggest platform, like on a
Yes.
pedestal. how
Yes.
is that going to affect your conduct? Will she feel, oh, okay, I need to be a bit quiet? Will she feel pressured to behave a certain kind of way because it's what it's expected of her? Even if the fire in her is raging, Rhaenyra has to toe a very fine line because she is a woman. People can easily turn on her, and she may have goodwill from people who have no problem with her being queen, but
Hmm.
one step out of line and someone could turn on you. And it makes me wonder, when you think about her growing up as a royal princess and all of the privilege that comes with that, and being basically, she had her father wrapped around her little finger.
Yeah.
She's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's that whole dynamic of, she kind of got away with things, and through her early adulthood as well, by virtue of being the daughter of the king. And, people criticize Rhaenyra for being that way, namely Alicent. But,
Mhm.
people who are fans of the show say, that wasn't the best look for Rhaenyra. She kind of can come off a little bratty and, but then again, teenage girls.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's really interesting is that's the environment she's grown up in, and she's struggled to find her footing. And I know that Millie Alcock and Emma Darcy both have spoken on Rhaenyra trying to find their place in this world because they don't fit into a cookie cutter image of what a young lady at court should do. And will that pressure to conform, will that become overbearing and overwhelming, and she'll tamper things down a little bit? Like, will she pump the brakes because she's afraid of how things will be perceived because she's a woman? If that makes sense. Like, that's the
It
kind of
it, it
elephant in the
does.
room.
It absolutely makes sense. And if you think about it, it goes even further than that because obviously at the point where in her case she gets told by Viserys about the prophecy as well, which is something we don't
Mm.
really account for in the
Oh,
book.
yeah.
You add that to the whole plot and how her being a
It's a lot
good
of
person.
pressure.
Exactly. Like even
Hmm.
even with what she said in the most recent trailer, I think it is, where she said something about the ruler, whether it's king or queen. I'm paraphrasing right now.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not only kings or queens; they're the protector of the realm
Yeah.
because of the prophecy. You add that to the mix.
Yeah.
It's right now
It's so
the
intense.
weight that she has right now
Yeah. That bit.
is
That bit right there.
monumental. Is monumental.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's like she's juggling all these things because, and she's lost a child. She's just lost her father. She's still grieving. It's going to be interesting to see how Rhaenyra copes because, as far as we know, Aegon and Aemon, they are not aware of this extra responsibility. As far as we know, Viserys never told them. And
I
so,
don't think so. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, unless it's something that is revealed down the line, oh, I knew, he told
Mm.
me, or you know what I mean? Who knows? But it's almost like it's almost like Aegon is playing checkers, Rhaenyra's playing chess
Test.
because
Yep.
she has this extra knowledge. And also, there's probably a lot of confusion. Like, what does this mean? When is this coming? Do we need to be prepared now? Have we got some time? Like, she probably has a lot of questions because her father tells her this, and we don't really see too much of them going back to that conversation.
Mhm.
Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But
Yeah.
it's like trying to get your head around, because it's almost like in Game of Thrones when people would talk about the others coming and everyone sort of laughed them off until they saw it
Right.
before their very
Yeah.
eyes. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like, how will that, the prophecy, how will that impact Rhaenyra? Will it cause her to pump the brakes? Will it cause her to go even harder? And I'm curious if she tells Jace about this. I
I think
think
she
that would be,
does. I got
I
a
feel
feeling
like
she
she
does.
does. I feel like we're going to get it happen. But I mean,
Yes.
obviously, we don't know. I'm trying to
Yeah. No, of
play both
course.
sides, but
Yeah.
I feel like that would be interesting. And my head kind of, I've convinced myself that he comes back after after
Mhm.
Luke's death,
Mhm.
and then he goes back to the north,
To the north.
unfinished business. And when he's at the wall, him and Cragen are having a, powwow, bros talking together. And he's like, yeah, can I get your opinion on this thing? Because I don't know what to do. Like, I feel
Uh,
like and then it's like you're
It'll
standing
it'll
on. So go
it'll
ahead.
open up his eyes. Dude,
Yeah.
I just got chills because
And
okay,
it's
okay.
literally like you're standing on top of the wall having this moment, this
Mhm.
conversation. What if the conversation is like, well, my ancestor, Bran the Builder, built this very wall and it's infused with magic. And then you've got like the dragon. What if his dragon won't go near the wall, won't cross it? Like it's all
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things. I don't know whether we're going to have enough time to cover these little details, but these are the things for the book readers. These are the little golden nuggets. It's like, I would
I
love to
keep
just see if Vermax tries to go over the wall or not. I'd love to
mhm.
see them try and be repelled back. And then Jace is saying to Kragan, do you know why that happened? And then Kragan says, well, the wall's been here a long time. It's been made from magic. My ancestor built this, did you know? And I feel like that is a whole other conversation. But it's just that's where my mind goes. I'd love to have that
If
conversation about the greater issue and about magic and
it is
dragons.
going to be it is going to be really interesting. And dude, now that you mentioned the we're talking about the prophecy, whether or not she tells Jace. Let's say she does tell Jace, which
Hmm.
I do have a feeling she will tell Jace, especially if she's paranoid about war, which
Yeah,
I would be too.
absolutely.
And
If she's
after
lost a
losing
child, she wants
exactly
to
after losing her
get
child,
her house in order.
exactly. She tells Jace about uh the actually when she says the whole thing about the in the trailer, who knows
Hmm.
if she's actually telling Jace
This
that
is the
moment.
thing. It could that's the thing that it took me a second to realize what they're doing with the trailers because you don't know who people are speaking to, and they're
Yes,
messing around with us, and they're
exactly.
probably
And
laughing at us or losing our minds. But that's important to
exactly.
remember. So
So
like
let's
Aemond might not be
say
speaking to Kristen Cole, like about Alicent and about,
true, true. Yeah.
he could be speaking to Egon, which we don't know for certain. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes you
Um
wonder, doesn't it?
it does. So imagine she tells him he goes off to the north to meet with Cregan and all that. And over there, all these things that you just mentioned, let's say on top of that, they add reports from the Night's Watch or something like that, where they're
Yeah,
seeing, you
mysterious
know,
goings on.
things with the White Walkers or whatever.
Yeah,
He's and Jace all of a sudden realizing, holy shit, this prophecy of ice and fire is actually probably
there's
real.
something to it.
There
Yeah,
is something to it.
yeah, and I feel like
And
it's not a coincidence he is close to Kragan Stark. Of all
mhm,
characters that he buddies up with, for whatever reason that you feel that they're close, he gets close to a Stark that is tied into the history. And even if Kragan isn't an expert on all things
mhm,
Westeros, he's going to have
yes.
been raised on these stories, like old Nan kind of stories,
Mhm.
where it's like things that are almost like a boogeyman, like
The
the
best
others of the
kind of stories,
boogeyman.
if you ask me.
Oh yes, I've got a lot of love for Old Nan. Just
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I can't remember the name of the actress who played Old Nan. I think that
I
she
can't
passed
remember.
away like quite quickly after, but she was on another show in the UK and it was like a comedic role and it was just a contrast to Old Nan and it was just like
Oh,
it
man.
was just a nice moment where I'm like, oh, that's so and so from Gavin and Stacey, which is a totally different show to Game of Thrones, and then she's
Yeah.
playing Old Nan. And it's just funny. It's like nice to see little moments from
Mhm, mhm.
supporting actors and things like that.
Yes,
Because old
yes.
Nan she stole the scenes. Like she was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
terrifying
She
Bran.
I know. Man, I don't know. I think we might be onto something.
It's
And
exciting,
it would
isn't it?
be
It's
a
exciting.
and really it's on them for bringing up the whole prophecy thing into this story,
Yes.
which I was actually a fan. I questioned it at first. I was like, why are they doing this? Why are
Yeah.
they including things that ultimately can connect to Game of Thrones? And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a theory or what. We kind of even talked about it, Estella and me, last time, but I keep going around as to why they brought the whole prophecy of ice and fire into this.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about now that we're talking about Cregan and Jay's going up north and whatnot, in the book we do get the pact of ice and fire, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the pact between Jace and Cregan.
Yeah.
We can talk about that some other day or whatever. There's quite a bit to it. Um, but it's interesting that for the show they did the prophecy of ice and fire, and where will this lead into?
Yeah.
Like, it can't just be House of the Dragon. I even
Yeah.
have a theory
I
that
feel like
connects
we're
to
on the
Game of
same path
Thrones.
here.
There
Yeah.
has to be something. And the fact that Bran
Yeah.
now being this overseer king, because that's sadly that's what it is.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a Bran fan, even from the show. I might be one of the few. I don't know. I'm weird, but
I
in
come
the
and go
book,
with Bran. Sometimes I'm here for him, sometimes I'm not. I'm actually warming more to book Bran than I
book
used
Bran is
to.
my guy. Book
Like,
Bran is my guy,
but
or like
sometimes,
it's chapters
yeah,
actually, not.
sometimes it can
Yeah.
be a bit of a slog. Like sometimes I enjoy the salaciousness of a Cersei chapter, for instance.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
it's just different. It depends on your mood that day. Sometimes I'm like, okay, well, let's check out this chapter of Bran. And some days I'm like, I'll wait till tomorrow when I'm in the
Ah,
right mood. Do you know what I
I
mean?
think
It's
I
like,
think the reason I'm so into brand chapters right now is because of the whole magic and the whole magical aspect and how it feels like it's the moments where we're getting the deepest of the lore with
yeah,
Jojen Green
yeah.
and
Like walking into Hodor and into like
yes,
all
yes.
these moments where it it's like we're
Old
getting little
hands.
glimpses. Yeah. It's that there's all these things that are sat around one table and we're trying to connect these things and be like, what's the deal? What does it all
Mhm.
mean? And I
It's
mean,
their own thing.
exactly, part of going back to the bit about the prophecy and why they included it. My hope initially was that it was kind of like a legacy situation where they were wanting to have this thread through all of their shows, the different spin-offs. Because if we're having a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, we've we're gonna meet Bloodraven, the three-eyed crow. I wouldn't be surprised if we got just a little moment hinting at what he becomes after the Dunk
Mhm,
and Egg tale kind of ends, and whether we're getting if we're getting the conquest show as well, whether they'll go
mhm.
back and talk about Egon and his vision and his dream, and all of these things. I feel like it's something to tie all of these spin-offs together. But I do think my only concern about them mentioning the prophecy is that it goes nowhere, like that it's forgotten about. That's my biggest
Yeah,
concern,
yeah,
because it's almost like, if you're not going to go anywhere, don't mention it, don't get our hopes up.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
I do feel like I'm 50-50 on whether I know what I would want to happen. And if I was in the writer's room, I'd be like, we're doing this. We're
Yeah.
going to keep on, we're going to mention it, and we're going to have that as the background, because the loss of the dragons at the end of the war, like, I don't think it's a spoiler for people that the dragons become
Yeah,
no more. By the
yeah,
time we get to, later years, there are no dragons, hence the Game of Thrones sort of
exactly.
angle. Um, but I feel like that being tied into fire and ice and this balance, the story is this family, this war, these people, and then there's a greater global story that this smaller one fits into. And it's nice
Mhm,
to have a little nod to it here and there. I feel like my only concern is saying about Jace and Craig and potentially having that conversation. I'd love
mhm.
it because I think it would fit in perfectly. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if we never heard about the prophecy ever again, only because I feel
Yeah,
like the show has got its own kind of thing going on,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the focus is not really on the bigger picture.
Prophecies and
It's, yeah, it's like a
yeah.
side thing. The issue that the show keeps on reaffirming is the dynamic between Alicent and Rhaenyra. That's the lens that the show is coming at. I don't know how much the prophecy fits into that, unless it was to describe Alicent as being skeptical if she was to be aware of it, because of her religion and because of
Mhm,
her, she's not Valyrian or Targaryen in nature. So there's a dissonance, there's a disconnect between what she might think if she was to learn of this prophecy and how Rhaenyra takes it as a Valyrian descendant. And I feel like that dynamic, it's not really what the show is looking to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if the prophecy was never mentioned again. But having said that, I would like it to tie everything
Mm,
together. And I would
yeah.
kind of like at the very end of House of the Dragon, obviously we're a while away from that. I feel like I would like the show to end kind of summing it all up in a bow and saying, this is what's happened and this is the consequence, not only for the people involved, this family, but for the greater community, for the
Yes.
world, for the
Yes.
people who live in this kingdom and beyond. I would love them to end on, the dragons are gone now and it's a new era, and that is going to have consequences. And it
Yep.
kind of segues into that first scene from Game of Thrones being the White Walkers, and
Yes.
that they're being in the background the whole time. And
Mhm.
and it'll be interesting if, as you said, about maybe if Jace is at the wall and somebody from the Night's Watch says, oh, we've just got word of this happening or this happened,
Mm.
little strange things. It makes you wonder, what are they doing in the far north? Because they're out there, they're
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And will they make an appearance, or will we get word of something strange happening or something, you know what I
Oh,
mean, where you
man.
just start
It's
thinking,
gonna be so good.
we're
It's,
down the rabbit hole. Well, we're
oh,
literally gone. We're
oh, man,
gone.
we're listen, since I can say it now because I read A Storm of Swords, we are in the tunnels underneath the wall.
we are we are in those ice tunnels.
The
Yes, we
ice tunnels.
literally are.
Yep.
We're gone.
Yep.
We're down the rabbit hole. But this is where it gets really fun, and you never
Yes.
know what can
Yeah.
happen. And
It's
part of me tries
interesting.
not to build the show up too much because they can only do so much, and
Right,
everyone is going to
right,
have expectations. So I'm trying to
right.
be fair. It's just like, guys, if I was in the writers' room, could we just put this little thing in, pretty please?
Yes,
Just for
yes,
the
yes.
fans, they'd love it. Trust me, they'll
Man.
go wild. Like, just put this in. They'll love you
Um,
for it. But I feel like they have had those moments where we love to see it, and that's where the show shines. It excels in these
right.
little details that make sense to the overall narrative. It's when things are odd and strange. Like, I'm still not over Alicent and Lara Strong, the foot that I think I've got PTSD from that. I no,
It
I don't
was
like that at
like,
all.
why? Why?
I know
Like, you're
it's
gonna they could have
yeah,
literally just told us, like, I don't know, some random ass character
yeah,
that knows Larry Strong quite a bit and be like,
yeah.
"Oh, I know you and the princess or you
There
and
could be
Allison and
an
the queen
insinuation,
have
yeah. It's
some
just
weird thing going on."
I know, and it makes me sad for Alicent. I'm like, girl, you deserve better
I
than this
know.
creep. Because this is the thing. And
Yes.
people think, because I think Rhaenyra should be the queen, that I'm automatically against Alicent, and nothing could be further from the truth. I kind of want to shake
No.
Alicent like a good girlfriend would and say,
Yes.
girl, what are you doing? Let me
I
help you.
I
And
think
so it's conflicting because she does things that I disagree with vehemently, but I
yeah.
also see the other side to this character. And I feel Alicent more than pretty much, maybe with the exception of Helena, who is just the most precious pumpkin ever.
Mhm.
Apart from Helena, I would think out of everybody, I feel like Alicent is the one I would want to reach out to as like girlfriend to girlfriend.
Yes.
Let me help you. Rhaenyra, she doesn't need my help. She's got
Yeah.
this. Like
Yeah.
she's gonna be fine. I want
Yep.
to help you because we can get into the whole thing with Alicent on another day, but she's come from the background she's come from and she's where she is today. And I don't know how many people are really looking out for her best interests.
Mhm.
So that's another
I
angle.
would
And it's
say
just
really none of them.
this now, all the men
Maybe
around her,
exactly,
they're
definitely.
using her. And I guess the question is, and we'll see more, is Alicent aware of how much she's being used? Or is she
Mhm.
smarter than all of them and she's just playing their game for
Yeah.
now? We just don't know. And
Right.
it's interesting to start picking at a character and getting into the details, because someone said to me about, the Green Council at the end of season one, where Alicent was kind of taken unawares by this plot to eliminate Rhaenyra. Like, that was not part of the plan that she was aware of. And
Mhm.
so it's like, were they plotting without her, leaving her out?
Beforehand, right,
It
right.
makes you wonder, do they respect her? Why did they leave her out? Do they view her as the weak link when it comes to
Yep,
Rhaenyra because of this situation from the past?
yep.
All of these things. Or is she allowing them to think that she's got no idea, because Alison has spies everywhere. Like, she's the queen. She
Yep.
has,
Yep.
ears everywhere. If anything is being plotted, I feel she probably is maybe not aware of it, but someone's telling her that things are going on. I feel like she
Right.
has an idea, and I would love for it to be Alison playing everybody, playing the men around her, but they don't see it coming
That
because
yeah,
they
that would
just
be
think.
good actually.
I think that would just be interesting.
Yeah.
I would root for her to be, still standing, even though she does make mistakes and she does things I disagree with. But at the same time, it's not just a clear cut thing. She's not a villain. There is so much more to that character, as is everybody. Rhaenyra,
Yeah.
Daemon,
Yeah.
Corlys,
Yeah.
everyone has their different
Their
aspects.
things.
And
Yep.
exactly. And it's just one of those things where it's so interesting to think about the what ifs. And obviously, we're only going to get one version on House of the Dragon. They could only do one thing. So they're going to present what they present. Some people will love it, some will hate it, some will be in the middle. I'm going to try and take it with a pinch of salt, but I feel like I'm nervous, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hopeful. I'm trying to balance out the nervousness with hope, because I
I
feel
think
like to be invested in this, you've got to love this story, right? Ryan
yeah.
Condal, he's
Yeah.
got to care. Otherwise, why would you spend all this time and put yourself in the spotlight? So I'm
Mhm.
hoping, I'm giving them, this is it, you heard it here first. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and anything that goes wrong is not on my head. I'm trying to be
Yes.
nice about it.
Yes.
So I'm just,
Um I think for you and everyone that, is very before the shows and stuff, and in this case House of the Dragon, we're very knowledgeable of what the whole lore is and whatnot.
mhm,
I feel that a 50-50 feeling toward the show, or what we get for, like, in this case season 2,
mhm,
is actually a good thing and a win for you. If you get the, "Oh my god, I loved it," that's a
mhm.
ridiculously big win. The
Yeah,
reason I say that is because you know so much, you've spent so much with these characters, reading the books and just spending a lot of time with them,
yeah,
to a point where you feel like know them. It's more
yeah,
more
exactly. Like,
specifically in A Song of Ice and Fire, not Fire and
yeah,
Blood that
yeah.
much.
I think with Fire
But
and Blood, I know a version of them, or my
exactly.
version of them, kind of thing. It's sort of
Yes.
like when you don't really know somebody, but they're a friend of a friend, sort of thing. It's like I don't really know them, but I know who they are, type of thing.
we
It's
literally
kind of
we
like that.
literally right, we literally become uh somewhat of a witness while reading the
Yeah.
book, um just so other witnesses are mentioned in Fire and Blood, we literally
Hmm.
become one of them,
Yeah,
because we
absolutely.
are
We're
getting this
being fed
version.
the story. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So i, I don't know, I think I'm excited to finally, like, find out
Yeah.
everything. I need all the tea.
I feel like
Um,
we're gonna get it all, and we're gonna just be like, we're asking for it, and we do want it, and then when we get it, we're gonna be like, oh, that's a lot. Like, you were almost gluttons for
yes.
punishment, because it's going to be a lot of action, a lot of drama, a lot going on in
Mhm.
a short 10 episode season. So there's a lot to
8.
wrap our heads. Oh, eight. Yes, sir. Yes, that is right. Eight. Yes, my bad.
No, no,
Even
no.
worse.
I'm
Like,
not I'm not I'm not even saying it just to, like, correct you or anything. I'm
no,
saying it
no,
because,
but
damn
you're
it,
right.
8 episodes.
8 episodes. There's a lot going on, and it's like, it's I don't envy the show for trying to get the right kind of flow to make it all make sense in that time frame. It's a difficult challenge. So I'm going to try and bear that in mind when I'm critical of the show.
Yeah,
That I'm going to try and be like, okay, they're trying their best. They're
yeah.
doing what they can. I think the only thing that will literally infuriate me is if something happens that's totally out of
Out
left
of
field.
left field, yeah.
Yeah, just something absolutely, like, regardless of who it concerns, if it's
Yeah.
something that leaves most people scratching their heads, like, what was that all about? Then that
Do you
kind of seems, maybe that wasn't a great idea. But at the same time, different strokes for different folks. Everyone likes different things. But I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
if there's a general consensus, like, I think most people understood the implication of the Laris Alicent foot scene. It could have
Yeah.
been done
Yeah.
in a different way. Could have been sort of her
It could have
whispering
been
something
the
to
Bela
him.
and Rainey's moment.
Exactly, exactly. We could have had a little moment. I didn't need to see the shoe and the stocking come off and everything and the
Yes.
whole
I
thing.
know.
And
I
it's
know.
almost, I think most people, even people who are fans, who are critics of Alicent, everybody was like, did we need that? There's
Mm,
ways of getting your point across in the correct way. That felt a little bit like we didn't need that. You could have just told
yes.
us it pretty
Yep.
straightforward.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
almost hope they don't overcomplicate things. If they just treat the audience as like reasonable people, even though not the
Right.
entire audience is, I feel like
Yes.
for the most part, we're pretty smart. We can pick up on things, we can pick up on insinuations and things like that.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I say that, and then there's the House of the Dragon fandom, but in my little
Well,
bubble that
we
I've cultivated, I don't know how you feel, but I'm sure you've got a similar situation where it's like, if people are talking crazy, that's not for me. You do
yeah.
that over there.
I
We'll keep it cute right here. So
I think that definitely, like I said at the beginning, we have to be more, and more so you get way more comments than I do. Um, I think you definitely have to be more block trigger, or trigger
yeah.
block, or however, whatever, trigger
Hmm.
friendly when it comes to the
Yeah,
blocking
yeah.
button.
Trigger happy, trigger
Or
friendly, one of them.
trigger happy. One of
That's
those.
the
You
one.
guys get
Yeah.
what we mean.
Yeah.
um,
Honestly, the
yeah.
the number of people, like I part of me is like, I kind of feel like I would love to tell people like the numbers of people that I block on a daily basis, because sometimes it's just like spam accounts where you can tell it's not a
Yes.
real
Yes.
account.
Right.
Sometimes it's people who I'm like, you're just not going to be for me. Like the things that some people say, I'm like, I don't even have the time to comment to explain why you're wrong,
Yep.
because it's,
Yep.
you know what I mean,
Yep.
because some things are just absolutely wrong, like on a human
Yep.
level. And it's like,
Yep.
it's just so much easier to block you and then delete your comment, and then no one gets to see what you said.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Plus TikTok won't do anything to your account, because that is something that a lot of us like forget about. And like TikTok, a lot of times they'll go through comments and they can even ban your account over
Mhm.
comments that are harmful or promoting
Yeah.
weird things and
Yeah,
whatnot.
I've had to
It
put like
literally,
filters on my account just because people would leave comments with certain words that I
yes,
knew would be
yes.
flagged. And it's just
Hmm.
like, I don't want my account to be affected. I get what you're trying to say. And there's people
Hmm.
who, oh, bless them, they make such an effort to, they really do try and say what they want to say without saying the word. And so I
Hmm.
appreciate that. And it's just like, I mean, the thing with TikTok is there are so many. With any kind of app, there's always little glitches and there's things that could go wrong. And I just don't want to risk anything. So it's like,
Yep.
let me just put that word into the filter because no one needs to see that. And also, it
Yes.
can be
Yes.
triggering for people just minding their business scrolling. I feel like that's another thing as well
Yes.
in the comment section. But then there's the danger of being in the comment section. It's kind of like the Wild West. It's like
Right.
people will, I'll scroll through my comment section and I'll see good comment, neutral comment, maybe negative, then maybe a positive. It's a whole mixed bag. It's mainly positive, but at the same time, people will come from all kinds of perspectives, and you never quite know what you're going to come across as you're scrolling. There can be those kind of comments as well. So it's
Yeah.
something I've got to
Absolutely.
constantly bear in mind. And the thing with it is I don't block anyone for no reason. Like if someone's been
Right.
blocked, people, I had somebody
There's a good
ask me on
reason
a
for
different, yeah, someone asked me on a different platform, and I think it was on Twitter, where they're like, please unblock me. And I'm like, bless your heart, I hope you have a lovely day. I'm not going to unblock you because you're
Yeah.
blocked for a reason. And it was just
Yes.
like if
Yep.
I'm blocked, I'm assuming that the person behind the account, whether rightly or wrongly, feels a kind of way. And
Yeah.
that's just
Yep.
how it is. And it's like
Yep.
I'm at the point where I don't even explain. I'm like, block, 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 block. And sometimes
Yep.
you have to. It just has to be
Yep.
done to preserve our own sanity,
Or
because
I was
we're
gonna
talking
say
like adults,
for
but
our
not
sanity.
everyone can hold a conversation like,
Yep.
the back and forth. And we could disagree on a particular topic or whatever, but we're going to keep it friendly. And not everyone can do that, always willing to do that. And so that's part of what we have to factor in. And it's a shame,
It
but it
really
is
is a
what it
shame,
is.
but
I think
yep.
we just do what we can
Um,
do. That's all we
uh,
can do. So,
exactly. So to finish off with like Rainita and all of that, I want to
hmm
remind you guys, for those of you that for some reason think that Rainita is actually should not be the queen. Let me remind you that she got the white stag. For those of you that don't remember
Mm-hmm.
that episode, a
Mm.
very an episode that is huge with symbolism.
Yes,
Um, and I haven't even
absolutely.
rewatched. I've been wanting to rewatch season one here before season two comes around. I'm
Yep, you
even
have to
thinking about
get a move on because we haven't got long.
yes, yes, I know. Now the second thing, the prophecy from Viserys,
Hmm.
whether you like it or not, it's in the
Yep,
show. It's another big thing.
yep.
Fourth, or third,
Third,
can't even
third,
count now.
getting
Can't even
ahead.
count. Um, the lords went out there and pledged their
Hmm.
allegiance to
Absolutely, they sure
Rhaenyra
did.
being the heir to
Hmm.
the Iron Throne. So
Yep.
I feel like I had a fourth one. I can't remember, but those three should be more than
And
enough for you
her
guys.
father named her. He could have picked
Absolutely.
anybody.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I kind
yeah,
of
absolutely. It comes back to a conversation. I think I did a video on it a while ago. Basically, what is the point in a king if the king's words are not like, obviously, if it's something crazy and
mhm,
wild and dangerous, fair enough, that's different. But if it's something like naming your heir, why do we have a king if the king's word is not the be all and end all when there is an absence of laws on this very issue? And another thing that I keep coming back to over and over is what what do people think in this the characters at the time who oppose Rhaenyra after already swearing to her?
mhm,
What do they think that means? What kind of precedent are you setting?
yep.
Because if you start to unravel what an oath means in this world when it's a sacred thing,
Such a huge
where does it
thing.
end? Where does it end? And how
Yes.
can, if that's the case, how can the next person be guaranteed any loyalty? Because if you're going to pick apart one thing, well, where does it end? And
Yep.
so if people swear to Egon, can they change their mind
Just
later?
switch out.
It sets a bigger, the problem is beyond Rhaenyra, Egon, the High Towers, the Targaryen. It's beyond that. It has repercussions for the entire
Yep.
realm. And
Thank
that is
you.
something that is very dangerous to be messing
Mhm.
around with. Like, we all have things that I don't want to pay taxes, but we've got to. There are things that we
Yes, I
have to
know.
do. We don't
Yep.
like it. You know what
Yep.
I mean? It's like no one enjoys it, but the rules are the rules. Like
Thank you.
it's one of those things.
It is one of those things. But thank you for mentioning the most obvious one, which was Viserys literally coming out and naming her the heir,
And
where
doubling
everyone
down.
came in and then
Hmm.
doubling down. That's what I was gonna about to say.
Yeah.
Doubling down, coming out almost. He was a zombie
He was
walking
dragging
up.
that leg. He
I
was
know,
literally like
to reaffirm the
amazing.
fact that he chose her
Yeah.
as
He
the
was like
heir.
on his deathbed. Like amazing. Like I criticize him a lot. That was fucking cool.
No, that was great. Patty
Mhm.
Considine, you were
Oh,
Considine. I can always get confused, but you
amazing.
were such an incredible, like,
And he was
performer
robbed
for
of
Viserys.
awards. He should have
Ooh,
been
I
given like an
know,
Emmy or whatever because
I know, I
he
know.
did so much in a short space of time. And I thought he was
Yes,
brilliant.
he was brilliant, actually,
Hmm.
really. Um, Before we go, because I know
Hmm.
we're like literally on the like this is gonna be pretty much we're downhill right now, very close to the end.
Yeah.
What are I want to say maybe I'm gonna keep it simple. Three characters that are new
Okay.
characters because like from the older
Oh.
ones, um, we kind of know obviously
Hmm.
Rhaenyra, Damon, and all that.
Yeah.
Um, Three new characters, and then I'll give you three of
Okay.
mine
That I'm excited to
that you are
see.
so excited to see for season
Okay.
two.
Okay. First up is Jane Aaron because I hope and pray
Ooh,
that we get her little thing that she says. I really
mhm.
want them to take it verbatim from the book because it doesn't need changing. It's just a little moment where she just says something that I
Jace?
love.
Is it the
to
Jace?
To Jace,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
I'm so excited for that moment, and I feel like that will be really cool. I'm excited to meet. Well, we know for definite we're going to meet the Hull brothers. I
Mhm.
won't elaborate on
Yes. We
anything
don't
about
stand.
them.
We'll just say we don't
Yeah.
stand.
But out of the two, the one I'm most excited to meet is Adam. No shade to Alan,
Ooh.
but
Oh
Adam
wait,
is,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We do stand the hole. We do stand the hole. I thought
yeah.
you said, "Oh my God." I thought you said the Hugh. I thought you said
Oh no!
Hugh.
Oh no! Oh, don't get me started on him.
Oh
That little
my.
bitch. I will be
Yes.
having words when we see him on the show.
Oh man.
Oh, I
Oh
am
my
so
God.
not here for him.
Whole
I hate
brothers.
him already.
Whole brothers.
No,
I am so
the no, no,
sorry.
not those
Uh,
people who
mm,
we're gonna be
yeah.
seeing. No,
We
the
do
two
stand the
brothers
whole brothers. We do
who
stand.
yeah, I'm excited to meet both of them, but particularly Adam for reasons that will be revealed. And
Yes.
the third person that I'm excited to see is Alice Rivers, purely
Oh.
because I feel like there's a lot of mystique. We don't know what the real deal is.
Hmm.
There's just so much that they can play with that I'm excited to see on the show, and her dynamics with other people and all that goes
Hmm.
on. So my top three that I'm most excited for is Jane Aaron, the Hull brothers, but specifically Adam and Alice Rivers. But I mean, obviously, Craig and Stark. I'm going to sneak
I
him
was
in at
gonna
the
say
end.
no.
I'm going to sneak
I
him
was gonna
in.
tell you. I was gonna tell you. I'm gonna put in an honorable mention, so you can put in another
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Honorable mention Craig and Stark.
Perfect. 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 Um, my three characters that I'm very very excited. New characters that I'm very
Mhm.
excited for season two. I gotta start off with Cregan. That is, man, I've been so excited for Cregan and his
Hills.
involvement in this season and moving forward. All I'll say, even though it probably won't happen in this season, but the Winter Wolves. Uh,
You know what?
yes,
I think we're going to get a glimpse. We might not
ooh,
see what we will see
maybe
later.
the start of maybe.
Yeah, maybe the
As-
beginning. I don't think we're going to see too much in season two. I think season three will have more, but
yes,
I'm excited for them too as well. And
yes,
I'm
yes.
excited for that one person to say that one line
Oh,
about why they are there. If you know,
mm,
you know. I'm just,
yes,
what we've come here
yes.
to do. Because
Hmm.
I'm just saying.
Oh man, so good,
I'm
so
just
damn good.
saying. I'm just saying.
Um,
HBO Max. I hope you're listening because we've got
yes,
some
please.
pointers.
Hmm.
And who would be your other
My my other
individuals?
my other individuals would be um Alice Rivers. That's my second
Mhm.
one. And there's no like rank or anything.
Yeah,
Although
absolutely. No,
I've
there's
got a
no
feeling
ranking.
I'm super
Yeah.
excited for all of them. I do have to say Cregan might be a little bit
Yeah.
over, but whatever. I love all of these.
Mhm.
Alice Rivers, I'm just so excited to see what is up with her character. Um,
What's the
Ryan
deal?
Condal, yes, Ryan Condal has teased a little bit or hinted at
Hmm.
possibly making Harrenhal or like making Harrenhal what it is, a haunted place full of very
Yes. A
very
cursed place. Yeah.
bad, yes, omens and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I am so
I'd like
excited to
that.
see something Game of Thrones, but make it horror.
Like
I'm down for that.
spooky. Yeah, I'm here for that. A little like maybe
Yes.
some like ghosts or something, or
Hmm.
some
Absolutely.
chains rattling in the background, a
Yes, they talk
curtain
about
blowing open.
well, they
Spooky
talk
shit.
about the ghost of Harrenhal, don't they? Like quite a bit in the Song of Ice and Fire as well. Like when Arya is in Harrenhal,
The
don't
ghost of
they?
High Heart. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So it's a
um,
slightly different, but the thing is with Harrenhal, like
it's
I believe
creepy,
it is
creepy shit
cursed.
in there. Oh, totally.
It's gotta be because it's like bad things happen if you hang around too
Hmm.
long. I just think
Yes,
it's a place that we've not really we visited, but we didn't really visit on Game of Thrones because we
mm,
just saw certain aspects, and it was not really about the location. It was about what else was happening. Arya, Tywin, that
yes,
kind of thing. It wasn't about, well, where are we and what does the significance of this building mean? I feel
right.
like we could get a little moment here and there because we do see Damon seemingly prowling the halls in the trailer. So again, it alludes to, is he hearing a voice that's calling him to walk down this corridor? Is there
Yep.
something that we're seeing? Is there magic? Because you've got dragon fire infused within this building. Like, what does that mean? And there's so many possibilities. So
Yes, so
I'm
many
excited too.
possibilities.
I'm really looking forward
Um,
to it. I think there's so much that they can work with, and I'm hoping and willing them on to get it right. But again,
yes.
I'm trying to be nice. It's a very difficult task with an
Mhm.
existing fandom. But then
Right,
again, the
absolutely.
argument could be made, if you don't want to do it right, don't do it at all. But
Mhm.
I'm just
True,
saying.
true, true.
So
My third would be, I was gonna say Adam. Well, I almost I almost spoiled it, but Adam of Hull.
I got you there. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're
Yes,
good.
yes, yes. But I like that you said the Hole brothers because obviously Alan is also really, really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously we just get Adam of Hole, like involvement is way feels like it's earlier than Alan. Alan is more towards
Yeah,
the end.
I feel like we're gonna have a little. I feel like we're gonna meet one, and then it's gonna be a bit of time before the other one kind of
Yes,
rocks up. I mean,
yes,
could be wrong, but I'm excited to just. I'm glad that they are both cast, and
yes. I know, and
that
they
was
didn't make it one.
exactly. I was worried that they were gonna
Yes,
chop a few people and
yeah.
merge them
Listen,
into one hybrid. So
um, there's so many things we can talk about.
I know. I think we're gonna
Because
have to
I was
write a
just
list
about
when we get off this. We're
yes,
gonna have to like.
no,
It's fresh in my
eh,
memory. Let me write this down so I can come back
I
and we can
was
talk about this
gonna go
later.
into another tangent, but, let me give you my honorable mention, and I feel
Okay.
like you are not expecting this one.
Oh, okay. I'm bracing myself.
I need my girl Blackwood in there. Black Alley.
You know what?
Alicent
I am
Blackwood.
so here for that. For Alison
Yes.
Blackwood. I've not heard any word whether she's going to
No,
be in season three, season two. I want to be surprised.
I
And I want
know.
to see her. I
Please,
want to see this
please.
shot of a girl in the background with the big, thick, curly hair, playing with a bow and arrow, like
Uh-huh,
shooting off into
uh-huh.
and we'd be like, is that who we think it is?
Yep,
I
yep,
love Black Alley and
yep,
Sabbath the
yep.
Frey. I hope that they are both in the show
Yes,
at some
actually,
point.
yes.
Maybe season three, but
We'll see.
I'm very much here for it. So good,
Um,
very good suggestion. I do think that's a good
yes.
one. So
Thank you.
yeah.
But yes, the whole tangent. We're not gonna go into the tangent, but it was gonna have to do with the whole Reina and Nettles and possibly being cut off and all of that.
Yes.
Um, I feel like
That's a whole other
it
tangent. Yeah.
like
We'll pick that
yes,
up later.
you didn't give me Nettles, but at least you gave me both the brothers.
Yeah.
So and the
So
other
yeah,
thing,
this
we'll
is
see,
it. We'll
we'll
take what we
see,
can get.
we'll see. Um, man, Kelly, I've had such a damn fucking good time. That there's
You
no
know
other
what?
word
This
for
has
it.
actually flown over. Like I feel like we've been talking for such a long time, but it feels like
Yes,
nothing because it feels like friends
so
chatting.
good.
So
It's so
I want to
good.
thank you for being an
Ah,
amazing host and for being
oh no,
so
I appreciate
welcoming
that.
and for even asking me to be involved. I very much
Of
appreciate it.
course,
And this has been
of
so
course.
fun. Like this has just been chit chat back and forth. So we're gonna have to do it again because
Hey
this was
guys,
just
that
awesome.
there you have it. You guys better be expecting more content of Kelly here, Game of Thrones historian, and man, this was good. Really,
I
House
feel
of the
like we both
Dragon
need to go and
talk.
have a nap. Like our
I
brains
know.
need to decompress.
Let's let's play SVU and just
You know
man.
what? I can hear the
Don't
theme
tempt you with
tune
a good
now.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Don't tempt me because that is literally my Saturday night. Like
You
I
know
am
what?
going in.
You know what? We are gonna finish things off a in a way that you will absolutely love. Since we're talking about characters and this and that, my wife is gonna love this moment. And actually, she would have been mad if I would have not asked this. But give me two. I'm just gonna ask two. Your
Okay.
two favorite characters in SVU.
Not Olivia Benson
Included, well, not
because
Olivia Benson. Actually,
okay.
exactly. Let's not do Olivia Benson because she's
Okay,
obviously
I can
the
tell you
top.
hand on heart, I can tell you without even hesitation, my two Benson is she's on another level, but my two favorite characters from season all the way from season
Stevie.
two is Finn and Munch. Literally,
Finn.
those two
Finn is my
together.
guy. Finn is my
You know
guy,
what?
man.
I saw Ice-T a few years ago playing with
No.
his band Body Count at a festival, and I literally made a beeline to. I missed another band that I wanted to see because I was like, go and see Finn Tutuola playing some heavy metal. And like, obviously, it was Ice-T, but and his band. But I was like, it's Finn. It's Finn.
Wait a
I saw
minute.
him in
Wait
the
a minute.
flesh.
I am so bad at some things. Obviously I knew Ice-T,
Hmm.
but he has a band?
He has a band, yes, been going for quite a while called Body Count,
Wow.
and they're basically like he kind of takes heavy metal, like I use that term very loosely, just
Yeah.
rock metal genre,
Yeah.
and rap as well, because obviously that's his bread and
Yeah. His
butter.
yeah.
Yeah, and this was at a rock festival that we go to every year. This was 2, 3 years ago, I think it was, maybe longer ago actually. Maybe it might have been before COVID. And when I saw they were on the lineup, I'm not like the biggest fan of this band, but
Yeah.
I had to go and pay my respects to
But
Ice-T.
You're a Finn fan,
I'm a
so
Finn fan. I'm a Finn fan. This is it.
oh my
Like
god, I
I
love
feel like
Finn.
in A Song of Ice and Fire, the TikTok and the Twitter fandoms and all this, I feel like I'm Finn. I don't want the drama. Leave me out of it. Because he doesn't want to
Yes,
be involved. He wants to go home and clock
I
off. He's just
know.
there to do what he needs to do. He's not there for the BS. And that's me. I'm
Man,
Finn. And I love
every
John
time
Munch because John Munch, Richard Belzer, rest in peace. My God, what a double act they were. And I loved
yeah.
Munch and his tinfoil hat theories. He would love A Song of Ice and Fire discourse
Oh,
because Munch
man.
would be in on all of the tinfoil hats. So
Dude,
I
you
love
have
this
made
A
me
Song of Ice
very,
and
very
Fire
happy.
crossover with SVU. I'm very much here
Yes.
for it. So
Um, man, Finn is the freaking goat. We need to get
he's
Finn
the
in A Song of
one.
Ice and Fire. We need to
Do you
cast
know
him in
what?
something.
Do you remember it was still, I think it was during Game of Thrones near the end. um Ice-T and Mariska Hargitay did a little skit. I feel like it might have been on SNL or something.
Really?
It was a Game of Thrones SVU skit.
No fucking
I'm gonna
way.
find it.
Really?
I'm gonna send you the link because
Please do.
I
Please
remember
do.
being like, what is happening? This is amazing. And it was just my two favorite things coming together. I will find it and I will send it to you later.
Please
And
do.
trust me,
Please
you'll be
do.
like,
Please do.
what? Because it was like a little like comedy bit. And it was just like,
Yeah.
oh, there's like people being killed everywhere. What's new? You know, that's what they're
Ah,
used to every
yes.
day. But it was like
Yes.
in the Game of Thrones world. So
Right.
I'll find it and
Right.
I'll send it to you because it was
Please.
amazing. So
That sounds
the
great. Well,
crossover
guys,
already is out there.
I know, true, and I missed it. I'm sad now.
I'll get you covered. I'll send it to you shortly. You'll be
Thank
fine.
you. Thank you. Well, guys, thank you so freaking much for joining us in this awesome episode. In
I've had a great
preparation,
time.
I did too. If it wasn't because we need to do other things, adult things,
Yeah,
and
if we
whatnot,
yeah, exactly. Like
uh,
yeah, if we didn't have things to get on with, we'd be here for like another couple of
yeah,
hours. But you know, there's always
absolutely.
next time.
But thank you all. Don't forget, by the way, that you can follow Kellie over here, Kellie on TikTok, possibly YouTube here in the next,
Fingers crossed if I
few
get
months or something.
organized. Yeah, I want
Yes,
to get
we
that
need to
set up.
get
And
you.
when I know, I'll tell you guys everything I know.
Please,
Hopefully next week.
please.
That's my goal.
Yes, we
So
need you. We need you on YouTube,
yeah. So there we go.
Twitter, and even Instagram, somewhat. Right?
Yeah, the best, if anyone wants to find me, I mean, just put in Game of Thrones historian on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, you'll find me
You'll
on
find.
there.
Yep.
And if you click on my profile, I have a link tree which has my other social medias if
Yep.
that is what you're interested in. If you want to hear me talk about other bits and bobs on Twitter, because it's mainly A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon,
Yes.
but we throw a few other things in, you know, whatever's going on in the world, we chit chat about that.
Exactly.
So you can
Exactly.
find all my different links on my link tree and what have you in my bio. So
There you
that's where
go.
that is.
Well, don't you guys forget to hit like and follow and subscribe here to the channel.
Yes.
You can find Binging Dragons on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, only audio version, and here on YouTube as well. Thank you all once again for like the 100th time, but I really, really mean it. You guys are all awesome. Kellie, you're awesome. And we will
So
see
are
you
you.
guys
Well,
in the
big
next
shout
one.
out to you because you are fabulous as well. So give yourself a little pat on the back
Uh,
too.
I love you. Did I just say I love you to someone? Whatever. I just love
I love
this
you
whole
too. We
I
all
love
love
this
each
whole
other.
thing, really.
It's a love
Um,
fest.
man, see you all. Valar Morgulis, people. Bye bye.